title. Listen, can we not? Well, okay, yes, insufferable PhD candidate, but can we get to the important stuff? I have a formal complaint to lodge.
What now?
Because as viewers will have realized, we are in fact remote this time. I had to stay in Albury for personal reasons, and so we weren't able to be in studio together. But Carly, I had to get my own water.
Does it taste like shit?
And I had to use the tap myself like a peasant. Who cares how it tastes? Can you arrange something so that no matter which studio I'm in, someone brings me my water? Thank you very much.
I'll get on the grapes and the palm leaf while I'm at it.
Yeah, good, excellent. Yeah, someone just, and some pearls in my water would be great. In my wine would be great too. Now that I've got that out of my system, yes, it is the Oddcast episode 44. Yeah.
Excellent.
Oddcast episode 44. And look, not to be outdone, get your merch from goodpeoplebreakbadlaws.com. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. We both found the same little sign on special at Kmart for like $10, and we both bought one. Whatever it was. Yeah, next to nothing.
I am going to be really insufferable next week because see my little display here. See how I have like 2 books and the card. Well,
I see where this is going.
Have a 3rd book that will sit.
I see where this is going.
3 books, 3 published books, right here. So, not saying anything, but catch up.
Don't believe you have a documentary though.
I believe my name's on those credits though, so I'm counting that.
Not as the director. Now, to be fair, I don't have a song on Spotify, so you know.
I am actually a rock star. Of all the things that you could put on my resume, rock star. And I'm not just like a musician, I'm a rock star because I'm in the rock category. And I even got highlighted on Spotify.
I'm sorry, your song got highlighted on Spotify. Have you uploaded the music video or is it just the song?
It's just the song at the moment. I need to figure out how to upload the lyrics and the music video because the platform I use to upload the song to Spotify doesn't seem to have that as an option. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. But it's got almost 2,500 streams, which is pretty remarkable. It's been up for 6 days. And how much money do you think I've made from Spotify?
Okay, so hang on, 2,500 views, 40 cents.
No, it's more than that. I will tell you actually. Let me have a look. Here it is. Oh, hang on. No, you get 0.003 or 5, depending on things.
Yeah.
So I've made $7.
You know what? That's actually. That's better than you get out of Facebook for the same number of views.
Is it?
That's like, yeah. That's. I mean, people complain about Spotify. That's better than you get out of X or out of Facebook for views or out of Meta. The only platform paying better than that is YouTube.
Yeah. Well, do you know what's funny? It's like I have to remind myself every now and then because I got quite annoyed when I found out about Apple taking 30% as well as YouTube taking 30%. And then I had to remind myself, I'm like, Carly, that you should be grateful that this exists. Do you know what I mean? Like this didn't exist 15 years ago. The fact that there is infrastructure out there that allows you to host your things to a greater audience than you would have been able to accumulate
100%.
yourself.
100%.
Not that I was going to ever be a rock star, but I would have had to have gone through a music company, like a what do you call it, a record company, and God knows I could have ended up at a P. Diddy party. Do you know what I mean? Like it could have been disastrous.
Well, then you would have had a great career, at least for a little while, until the next young thing came along. Now, we do live in a remarkable time. I've talked about Amazon before, and people hate on Amazon. The fact is, someone like me publishing the books that I've published, and you know your lovely books as well, Amazon has made that process so much not only easier, but the quality is better. You know, I've seen people publishing with Australian publishers, and I get criticized. Why didn't you use an Australian publisher? I've seen the quality of the work that has come out of some of the Australian publishers that I've seen used by people that I know. And I'm sorry, I am not okay with selling a product like that. That is not up to a high enough standard. So Amazon didn't just make it easier. They didn't just make it higher quality, but they actually took all the risk out of it. Because with Amazon, you can print one book. If you're the author, you can print one book for the per book cost that you would pay for 1,000 books.
Yeah.
Or 10,000 books with a publisher here in Melbourne or here in Australia. So I can now publish a book that is higher quality, easier, and without the financial risk of having to buy 10,000 copies of the book just to get the per book price down to a reasonable level. That is life-changing. That is world-changing. Each and every one of us owns a music publishing company. We own a book publishing company. We own a global logistics company. We own we own merchandise making companies. Now, we don't own them in the sense that we hold the shares, but we own them in the sense that we can basically use them for pretty much cost price.
Yeah,
right? The margins on these businesses now are so small. We're using them for basically cost price. And when we don't want to use them, we don't have to pay for them. It's an incredible time to be alive.
Well, I printed this locally, and the problem with Australia is we have to get our minimums up, right? Like it's too expensive to print short runs. So I think I printed originally about 100 of these, and like the printing's nice. It just cost me a fortune. I think it cost me $22 per book because I only printed 100. Whereas
and then your margins are gone.
Yeah, there is no margin. And then Amazon, the only thing about Amazon is it's American sizes. So this is A4. This is letter. There isn't the equivalent. That's the only gripe. Like I'm clasping at straws there. But my stuff's photography based, right? So I want the colors to look good. The quality of this printing is amazing. I only have to print one if I want to. I can print up to 900 at a time, and that means I'm not holding heaps of inventory. So it's actually really amazing. So that's what I just put my my new book on, my third book,
and
it will be here for Monday.
Oh, you are going to be insufferable, aren't you? Can you imagine 3 books plus doctor in your title?
I'm doing it purely so people can just be seething.
You're doing it purely out of spite. So where this is really annoying for me is that I have a similar thing going on with my wife. She's a multi-award winning mortgage broker. And for a long time there, she'd won a lot more awards than me. And she said when she married me, she said, listen, the only reason I'm marrying you is because I'm hoping that you're going to get me into the Oscars. I'll get to walk the red carpet at the Oscars someday. That's not working out well, by the way. That's a gamble that has not paid off. But, awards and awards ceremonies were kind of a big deal. So she was racking up the industry awards and genuinely like really killing it in her industry. And I was lagging far behind until I won 14 awards for this one project. And so now we're neck and neck. We're actually both on 14 awards. So the question is who's gonna be able to nab the next one. But I feel like now I'm having to compete on 2 fronts. I've got to compete with my wife for like the industry awards, and I've got to compete with you for publishing books and just pushing stuff out there. It's a high pressure life.
I've won heaps of certificate awards. I've never ever won a trophy, and I am dirty about it. I want a little gold man. I don't care what he's doing. It could be discus or shot put or podcasting. I just want a statue on a little plastic plinth. All right.
All right. So the halfway step is plaques. All right. So I've got quite a few plaques like the one I'm pointing at in the background there. That's one of my Libertarian of the Year awards. I won 3, by the way, but one of them didn't come with a plaque. Two of them came with a plaque. One of them didn't. One of them was actually a joint award for me and Edwina. And so you know what my wife did, because she loves an award. She went down to the local trophy place, gave them the artwork that was on the certificate and said, can you put this on? Can you etch this into that glass trophy over there? So we are the only people with that award in trophy form, because my wife is like, nah, stuff this, not happy with the certificate. I want this on glass.
That's what I need to do. I need to make my own. I won in, this a while ago now, but when I was at uni the first time, when I got my bachelor's degree, I got the National Gallery of Victoria's Art Trustees Award, which apparently is quite prestigious, but I got an A4 piece of paper for it. And I think I got a $3,000 check at the time, which to be fair, at the time was a lot of money. But I was so apparently this is a prestigious award and you get this A4 sheet of paper, no ceremony, just, hey, you won a thing. Congratulations.
So I'm mindful of the fact that we are now 10 minutes in and all we've done is bitch about
You don't want to hear about my accolades?
Well, look, I don't want to hear about yours. I know that people want to hear about mine, but unfortunately, if I talk about mine, you're going to talk about yours, and that's just going to ruin the whole experience. So we probably should move on.
There's something for streamers and YouTubers. Is it the Shorty Awards or something like that? There's a big thing.
Yeah. Other way. I mean, there's this for those of us that are actually good. You know, obviously, the only way you'll ever touch one of those is by borrowing mine. But yeah, I mean, there are awards for.
What would you do if I hit 1 million before you? What would you do? Would you cry?
What would you do? What would you do? You would fire me. You would humiliate me on the next live stream, fire me, and declare that you're never going to speak to me again. That would be insufferable.
We wouldn't both fit in the same room. We'd have to have separate studios.
Yeah.
What
well, I mean, we already
like
do.
really big and we get a green room? Are you going to be like, sorry, I need my own green room?
I need my own private space. If I have to sit opposite you across a table for 3 hours, I need to be able to psychologically prepare myself in peace beforehand.
Meanwhile, I'm just out with the plebs, just hanging out. I tell you what.
Hey, listen. Before we move into today's news. We got to do the word. Yes, we do. And we got to do the good news. But I was just thinking, have you had a chance to have a look at the venue for the first birthday party yet?
No, that was on my list.
Okay, that's all right. So once that happens, we'll be able to confirm the venue. We'll be able to confirm the dates. We'll be able to put tickets up for people to come along. What do you think? I'm taking a risk here. I'm doing it on the show. I'm putting myself out there. I have long wanted to do stand-up, and I reckon I've got a pretty good.
Stand on stage, we'll all laugh.
Well, yeah, I reckon I've got a pretty solid 6 or 7 minute set.
Okay,
right? Because stand-up's hard. Like, and people sort of go, "Oh, I can stand up and be funny for 10 minutes." No, you can't. Most people can't. I'm not convinced. I think I've got a pretty good 6 or 7 minutes. How would you feel about in the Oddcast first birthday, giving me my first ever shot at just actual stand-up comedy?
I say go for it. Do you want us to act like a proper audience at a stand-up club, and like if it's shit, we just play crickets?
And throw things at me and stuff. Look, I should probably get the real experience. I mean, you're not a real stand-up comic until you've been booed off stage multiple times. Like that's part of the process.
I'll heckle you.
Yeah, part of the journey. I know you'll heckle me. You'll ruin my rhythm. I'll have this beautiful rhythm going, and you'll just be like, from the sidelines.
No, hey man, I reckon stand-up takes balls. I'm not good at being anything.
There are women who do it, although these days you can never be sure.
There's a girl who's up and coming. I took photos of her last week. Her name is Lisa Jane Seymour, and she's a satirist. And she is sort of taking after Isaac Butterfield, and she's hilarious. And like, I photographed her last week. She should do it as well. We should turn it into like a little open mic.
Hey, that's a great idea. I also think that we should invite Adrian Portelli and his business partner, whose name always escapes me.
Oh, just
Troy, yeah. We should just say, hey boys, come along. It'll be fun.
They're busy boys. They are busy boys.
Yeah, but it's a decent sized room that doesn't have people that hate their guts.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, because of the way the media treats them, that's probably not a super common thing. I mean, they've obviously got a lot of friends and all the rest of it, but it's probably not all that common that they get to come out to kind of a semi-public event and actually just be treated like normal, decent human beings.
Speaking of Adrian, I only saw this because I looked at his stories, so I don't have like more information than this, but he's doing God's work at the moment. Like, obviously, he's a big businessman now, so he's got other interests outside of just LMCT, but I know he's been doing a lot in the construction spaces, in like property development, building his own place and a few others. And I from what I understand, I think he builds childcare centers. Anyway, he's been working closely with site inspections, right? The guy. I'm so sorry, site inspections, if you watch this. I do not know your name. I should learn your name. That's terrible. I do not know his name. I just know his face and I know his like mannerisms. Anyway, so they're working on something sort of, because you know how Adrian was buying the block houses and now he's starting his own show, My Redo Rules and stuff. So I actually think they're about to do some whistleblowing on the construction industry, particularly in Victoria. So that could be really interesting to watch.
Yeah. Interesting. So, all right. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. If he wants to come to the Oddcast's first birthday and drop some bombshells there, then he's more than welcome.
I will invite them somehow.
Just
not that I don't
send them a message through Instagram. They'll be sitting there refreshing their screen, hoping to hear from us.
Waiting to hear from Carlz. Yeah, I can imagine.
That's right, because they've got nothing better to do. Clearly,
Yeah,
it's not like they're busy.
And coming and flowing it with a couple of plebs like us, who could say no?
Who could say no? I mean, honestly.
Although, remember, I am a rock star and an exhibited artist with a master's degree. So.
Don't mention to them that I'm going to do stand-up comedy. That might, maybe just leave that out. Leave that out. We'll let that be a pleasant surprise on the day.
Is that something you've always wanted to do? Stand up?
I've always wanted to. And I respect it enormously as an art. And I have talked about the fact before, stand-up comics are genuinely on the cutting edge of social change. And because I talk a lot about social change, and I've been predicting the social change that we're now in, the next great cultural revolution that is now unfolding before our very eyes, it's an area that really fascinates me. And for me, to be able to add to my body of work that on a semi-regular basis, I stand up in front of audiences and I test, where is that absolute cutting edge? Where is that absolute bleeding edge? And I can test it for myself in the ways that inform my own commentary and my own understanding of what's going on. It's, yes, I'd be there to be funny, of course. And if you fail to be funny as a comic, well, you've failed, right? And there's that saying, the audience is always right. If what you said was funny, they're right. If the audience says what you said was not funny, they're right. And so that opportunity, one, I think I can do it in small doses. I think I can, I'm not one of these, I'm not a Ricky Gervais. I couldn't stand up there for 90 minutes and kill it. No. But to be able to say, right, a constricted time frame, less than 10 minutes, 5 to 7, sort of minutes at a time on open mic nights or supporting as an opener for others or these sorts of things. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
Do you know what? Do you remember like in high school and stuff, you do like the drama, drama as an elective and you go and act and do the school production? I used to be a dancer. Long story. Okay. Not going to go into it. But dancing, great. Love dancing. And I'm not too bad at singing. I don't sing for anyone, but, not too bad at that. But acting or like having to be someone other than myself, cannot do it. Yeah. Like that just puts the fear of, that is like my worst fear. Public speaking all day, every day. No problem. Yeah. But acting or like doing something like that, more not for me. Nuh-uh.
Yeah, see, I don't mind it. I ended up studying a thing called practical aesthetics. I know, we got to get to good news and everything else, which was Meisner and a well-known actor. He did lots of really good character roles. He was in Fargo and other things. They got together and they developed an acting technique called practical aesthetics. And it's very external as opposed to method acting, which is very internal and you feel everything and all the rest of it. Practical aesthetics is exactly what it says. It's about the practicality of how it looks, because ultimately the audience is going to receive how it looks and how it comes across. And so what you're feeling on the inside just has to be the thing that is necessary to make you look the way that you've chosen to look in that moment.
So terrified.
Well, yeah, it doesn't actually have to be the thing that the character is enduring in that moment, right? Method acting is you got to go deep into this thing and really get into the muck, and oftentimes characters are going through really horrible things, and actors end up torturing themselves under that method acting kind of technique. So I much prefer Stanislavski, I think it was, and practical aesthetics as an acting technique. But then again, I very quickly realized that acting is a closed shop and it is not open to people with politics like mine. So it's kind of a moot point now.
It's a bit like art.
A little bit, although you've got that crowbar in there and you are giving it a good wiggle. You are finding a weak point.
I know we didn't really talk about it on Monday, but the exhibition, like it went really well. And I had a lot of people there, and I had the CEO. So my uni is a private uni and it's just been bought by a New Zealand company, and they're not in the arts. So I think that in their portfolio, they've got like lots of private higher education institutions.
Sure.
But my uni's their first creative acquisition. And I thought it was really interesting that they came to mine, right? Like that was a choice. Like they found out about that from my lecturer. So the fact that the CEO and the owner of the university were there, and then my two lecturers who, to be fair, like I don't have anything against them personally. Like obviously we see differently on a lot of things, but there was friction for two reasons. One, my subject matter, so AI, and also of course not using the acknowledgement of country, talking about women, right? So that, like, I wasn't trying to upset them. It was just the
you were just
friction
being
was
a normal
there.
human being. Yeah.
Yeah. And something that really bothered me about my uni, and not to beat the drum about this, is they didn't give me a mentor. So you're meant to get a mentor. It's part of it. And you can have access to a couple, and that mentor is meant to sort of guide you through your practice and, be your storyboard outside of your lecturer. And I didn't have one for 18 months. All my other colleagues did, or students did. And so it came to the final presentation last Friday. What was it? Yeah, it was Friday. I presented. And my assessor was there, and they're exactly what you think. They're the university academics, and he said, "Oh, you didn't mention your mentor. Who was that?" And I said, "I didn't have one." You should see it in his face. He was just like, "What?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, I didn't have access to a mentor. The uni didn't provide one." And he sort of was like, "Really?" He was like, "That's not." A, that's not good, but B, and he was looking around the space, and I think, like, because I jumped the shark, right? Like I went above and beyond, but that was deliberate because I wanted to be undeniable to a point where you cannot like my politics, you cannot agree with me about my ideological standpoint, but you cannot deny that not only did I hit the criteria of the assignment, I actually am good at what I do. Because that's unfortunately that extra step we have to go when we're like out of favor with whatever the current thing is. You kind of have to, you can't just be good. You need to be excellent. And then, people can say what they want, but you can't turn around and say, oh, she's a shit artist or she's a shit photographer. It's frustrating. And it's the same with acting. It's the same with fashion. Like, even just, not to beat on about it, but the Melbourne Fashion Festival that just happened. And I was watching all the social media content. Now, I love fashion as an art form, right? Like, if someone was to pay me to go to Paris Fashion Week, New York Fashion Week, and I could photograph the designers' orchestra shows and like the really amazing, crazy, cool seamstress stuff, I would love that. The problem is, excuse me, fashion has been co-opted by influencer culture and also politics. Sorry, I just need a quick drink. Hang on a sec. And the problem is, now when I watch a lot of the fashion stuff, it's all very activist based. So whether it's, obviously during Melbourne Fashion Week, we had people making statements around Palestine, people making statements about body positivity, people making statements about politics and socialism. And the clothes has taken a back seat. And now it gets to the point, and I'm not trying to disparage people, because like I'm an eccentric too. And I know that I can be a bit strange, but it's not fashion anymore. It's costume. And it just, it bothers me, and this, it just bothers me.
This is that thing that we've talked about before, where it's what's on the plaque that matters now. It's the wank that's written on the plaque that explains the artwork. And that's what you're talking about in fashion form. It's no longer the thing walking down the catwalk or hanging up in the exhibition. It's the wank that's been built into that. It's the story and the statement around that. And I think that's a really regressive step with our art. And it's it is undermining it. And I applaud you for standing your ground. We've talked about that. And you're right.
I was going to say, I've got a video that I've wanted to plan for you, right? Like, as I'm starting to come into that role. And I think it's really important for you to do it. Like, I can do it, but this is about, like, you and I have talked about music, architecture, fashion, how it's declined. So modern architecture, like, I want to start with looking around Melbourne, and then obviously zooming out to national and then international, and look at what we've replaced beautiful buildings with, and talk about what has happened. And the reason I want to do this is because I've seen quite a few videos of people going, what happened to modern, like what happened to architecture, what happened to music. I want to do it with a timeline of what was happening politically at the same time. So when modernism came out, what was happening politically? When this came out, and when I've been researching this for months, by the way, when I have time, and it's actually incredible to sort of see what's happening. And I honestly do think this is impacting the social fabric. I really do.
Well, I mean, what's happening politically is a reflection of what's already happening culturally. Politics is downstream of culture, and you're absolutely right. So architecture, it's liquid music. That's we've talked about that before. And music is architecture in architecture is music in solid form, and music is architecture in liquid form. They reflect each other. The most obvious example is, of course, the brutalist Soviet architecture of the Soviet Union. Compare the Soviet music with the Soviet architecture and then go back to Tsarist Russia and compare the architecture and listen to the Russian composers from before the Soviet Revolution, and you realize, these are all different expressions of culture. This is what it is. And if we're going to be at the cutting edge of culture, which is my whole thing with wanting to get deeper into the comedy side of things, then we need to be observing these sorts of trends.
Well, this is a story I had for later. Hang on. Okay. This is a story for later, but I won't tell you the story now. But have you seen all of this hoo-ha around Nicki Minaj and Trump? Nicki Minaj is a rapper. One of the most awarded female rappers.
No, I have come across Nicki Minaj. I might be a grumpy old curmudgeon, but I have come across Nicki Minaj. I feel like I've come across it, but my brain has dismissed it. I can't find the thread to pick up. She's
essentially coming out as MAGA. Like, she hasn't said it, but she's sharing tweets from Elon Musk. And then she shared something about, that's right, because Donald Trump posted around helping out Nigeria and Christians, and Nikki shared it and said, this is amazing. Thank you, Mr. President. Yeah. And then the White House.
That's what I saw. That was the thing that I did see. Yes.
And now the White House has come out with a video of Donald Trump and Melania when they're moving, and they've like cut the music to a Nicki Minaj song. And then she shared it. And she's like, I'm dying. Like, this is the best thing. Anyway, it's a whole thing. We'll talk about that when we get to culture.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyway,
all right.
Tell me when to stop.
Now.
Right or left?
Right. Bottom.
Yep. Bottom.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Diaphanous.
Right.
Diaphanous. Diaphanous. Fine and sheer, or insubstantial and vague. To behold the daybreak, the little light fades, the immense and diaphanous shadows.
Diaphanous. There's no R in there. Diaphanous.
Oh, that's my dyslexia. Sorry.
It's so thin as to transmit light. A hat with a diaphanous veil. Synonyms: cobwebby, filmy, gauze-like, gauzy, gossamer, see-through, sheer, transparent, vaporous, and vaporous.
Vaporous? Who uses these words? Like, they're fantastic, but when was the last time someone used diaphanous?
Look,
as a
diaphanous, probably a diaphanous. It's with an N. If you try and use it and you put an R in there, I'm claiming that as a point for me. There is no R in that word.
Diaphanous.
Yes, diaphanous. So
insubstantial and vague.
Yes. So good news, and I have some really this is actually this is really good news. Yeah, this is feel good for me. So I have a team in the Philippines, as you know. And recently, the Philippines, someone just needed to turn it off and back on again because it just seems to have a lot of bugs in it. They've been getting a series of earthquakes. They had a volcano get active recently, not a massive deal, but it was nevertheless a volcano becoming active again. And they've just had a typhoon, and they're looking at potentially another one in about a week. There's sort of a string of typhoons kind of lined up as happens. And so my team, I've got 3, and my wife and her business has another 3 people, all in the Cebu region in the Philippines. They went through a typhoon yesterday. And so obviously on Monday, the typhoon was coming in, and I told them, listen, don't go and do shopping, take time away from the computer. Like, you don't have to work the whole day. Just go and stock up on food, stock up on water, get your battery banks all charged and your torches all ready to, all the stuff that you need for a situation like that. And they went and they did that. And then they had to go through on Monday night, our time, they went through a typhoon and huge storm surge, flooding. One of my team is still cut off by the flooding around her house. The whole grid went down. The utility turned off the grid just to protect it from damage. And then power has come on in most of Cebu, is my understanding now. And they've got patchy internet. They're using the cell towers are up and running, whereas their kind of hardwired Wi-Fi internet is all still down. So to my knowledge, I think there were a very small number of fatalities, which is always obviously tragic, but the Philippines have had some really horrific hurricanes. I think it was about 10 years ago, they had over 2,000 people killed in a hurricane saw a typhoon there, and obviously a lot of damage. And it's one of those places where poorer people are exceptionally vulnerable. They're living in houses that just cannot withstand strong winds. They're living in places that are very vulnerable to flooding, etc. So just at a human level, the tragedy is really, really significant. And then yesterday morning, they were still in the hurricane, in the typhoon, but I was able to get a message through them. I said, listen, guys, don't worry about work today. Like, just forget it. Don't even try, because I know them, and I know that they would have tried, despite the fact that there's a typhoon. They would have been like, oh, I've got to try and figure out how I'm going to get onto the internet. And I sent them a message, and the message did get through eventually that, don't worry about work, all the rest of it. And then today I caught up with the team, and I found out that they've been comparing notes with other people that live in, around them, friends of theirs who work for big American companies. They work as remote workers for the big American companies. And the big American companies were literally just saying to them, I don't care. I don't care about a typhoon. That's not our problem. Customer calls are going unanswered. You need to get to they're just being absolute assholes. And
that's disgusting.
My team have been bragging about me and showing screenshots of my messages to them. And other people are like, do you have any openings? Can I work for your boss, please? And I try to treat people well. I don't always succeed, but most of the time I do. But also most of the time you don't. Yeah, not you. No. You're in a different category. But most of the time, when you try to be a decent person, it feels like it goes unrecognized. It's sort of, you're just putting it out there, and it just kind of, okay, that's nice, and that's fine. I don't. Not everything has to come back to you, but it is really nice when it does. And this just feels like one of those moments where I've gone out of my way to treat people well, and they have gone out of their way to treat me well in response. They work really hard. They have a great attitude. And now in a moment like this, they're really recognizing the extra value that I bring just by treating them the way that I do. So yeah, for me, that's a real kind of feel good moment. And it's kind of a silver lining out of just a really horrible experience for them. They've had to obviously, try and sleep through a typhoon and all of the anxiety that comes with that and everything else. We can't change that, but what we've got now is a silver lining where they recognize they've had the opportunity to really see that I mean it when I say that I care about them and that I want them to be okay. And yeah, it's just really nice.
That's a great story.
Yeah.
That's
my
well
good
done.
news.
I try and do the same thing when I'm a boss or when I've had staff, but I've found that there's a fine line. I've done this in the past, like when I used to have my old clothing company. My goodness, I was very generous. We used to do these massive trade shows, and it would be like a week long, and it was a lot of work. Yeah. Buy everyone's lunch, buy everyone's coffees, have everything stocked, and they got paid either cash in hand or extra dollars for stock, right? So let's say it was $30 cash in hand or $45 worth of stock. And most people would choose the stock, whatever. And then people would still steal. People would still get angry. Yeah. People would still get, and it just goes to show that like work ethic in different places where they see opportunities is very different. Yeah. So that's good to hear.
Yeah. And look, there's no doubt that there would be people like that in the Philippines as well. But I would say that overall, the Filipino culture is more grateful, I think, than the Australian culture. But without question, the individuals that I've got, and also the ones that my wife's got, we are really, really happy with. And there is a sense that when...
Sorry, go.
There is a sense that when we look after them, it does actually come back to us. And they are
you going to go see them?
Looking after us. I would love to. So I was hoping to go via the Philippines on the way to Japan at the end of the year. We've had to not do that because it's just so hard to get time away. And the trip is already going to be so short, we couldn't add the extra stop. However, yes, 100%. I would love to think that next year we get to the Philippines at some point in time. I don't know when.
I haven't been to the Philippines, so I'm just saying.
Yeah, neither. No, I think it'd be great. Is
it Palawan or something? Palawan? That's like epic tropical area?
Well, they've got epic tropical areas. I don't know which ones by name, but yes, they've got, there's 7,000 or something crazy islands as part of the chain. Obviously, a lot of them very small, but yeah, beautiful, beautiful place. And I'd love to spend some time there. All right. What's your good news?
I was going to say, this has been on my bucket list, but if we go here very quickly, we can show the good people. This is Palawan. Palawan images.
Let me make sure that really
Like-
is in the Philippines. Just
It
before
is. It is.
Okay. Yep. All right. I believe you now.
Take me there. It looks like Halong Bay, but like not overcast. Have you been to Halong Bay?
I haven't been to Halong. I've never. The only place in Asia, in proper sort of Asia that I've been has been China and Hong Kong, and
very
to
different.
Bali, which is obviously Bali's its own thing. No, I've spent very little time in Asia, and to be honest, if I was traveling for a holiday, I would go to Eastern Europe. I would go to Prague and Budapest, and check out that part of the world. However, having a team in the Philippines, I kind of go, well, yeah, I'll go to the Philippines as soon as I can. Yeah.
I love Asia. I've been everywhere, except Philippines. Actually, I have not been to the Philippines.
Everywhere, man.
Yeah, done most of it,
Cool.
Except India. And to be honest, it's not high on my list. Anyway, my good news is I'm not going to even say anything. I'm just going to post this. That's my good news.
Well done. For those that are listening to the podcast, Carly has put up an image that says exegesis submitted. Now I sleep.
That's it. I'm done.
Can I tell everybody, you told me on no uncertain terms that you were not doing any work yesterday. It's like, leave me alone. I bite. Today, I bite. And I left you alone. Yesterday
and
was
then
a
today
sleep
you're like,
day. Yeah, that's right. No, 100%. 7 o'clock in the morning. Where are you? Yeah, absolutely.
Why aren't you awake, slave? It was a good feeling. But you know when you're like there's this massive crescendo, then you kind of sit there and you're like,
yeah, it's
what do I do now?
It's what's known as the post-show letdown in theater circles, where you've got this show and you probably end up hating the show by the time you do a 1 month run of the same show, blah, blah, blah. You're so glad that it's over. And then you wake up 2 days later and you're like, there's a hole in my life.
Yeah.
Where that thing that I hated used to be. I
don't have to do something today. I mean, I do have to do things, but I'm not like shit, stressed. Oh my God, I got to do the thing. It's very nice feeling. So now we wait and see how I get marked.
I have one other piece of good news.
God.
I have to smoke a cigar on this show. It's an obligation because I found evidence of potential mold on this cigar. So it's a matter of urgency. It probably means I'm storing them a little bit too warm. So I'm gonna look into that. But I was just checking them all, making sure they're all good. And this one just had a tiny bit of evidence of potential mold. But I just want to show people. Now, is there a way I can do this where you can see the color shift between where it goes yellow to goes clear? All right. So that is because the cigar was sitting down in that section where it's gone yellow. That is a sign of age. That is a sign of a cigar it is lovely and oily and has been sitting in the cellophane for a very long time. And I am really looking forward to this cigar. This smells magnificent. Carly, just be happy for me, okay? I can have my weird hobbies. You can have your weird hobbies. This is an Ave Maria Reconquista in a torpedo, for those that would like to know.
I still remember that podcast we did together where I cut the wrong end off.
I had blocked that out.
Some of my best work.
That out. It was a closed. I got to take some responsibility. It was a closed foot cigar. So both ends were sealed or appeared sealed. One of them was not in fact sealed, but they both looked like it. And clearly instructions were unclear. Yeah, you lit the wrong end.
Yeah,
you lit the wrong end. And once you start lighting it, it's too late. There's no going back. You can't put that in your mouth.
I'm just hardcore. I just wanted to go straight to the good shit. It's like, anyway. So, all
right.
We do have quite a range of news, and I thought we'd start. Like, I'm trying to take everyone on an emotional roller coaster. I thought we'd start with like serious, and then go down, and then come up in like some good newsy, and then so I thought we'd start with some pretty serious foreign affairs stuff. What is that? What was that?
That's the pure butane to recharge my lighter. It's an accessory sport. Cigar smoking is an accessory sport. It's like having Barbie dolls. but for like middle-aged men who want to die with throat cancer. You've got to have all the accessories and all the bits and bobs lying around. I have a special tool here that is specifically for helping me to loosen up a cigar if it's been too tightly wrapped or if it's become too humid. I've got a variety of different cutters that I can use depending on the style of the cigar, a couple of lighters, multiple ashtrays, all just here, ready to go, spare gas, and then more spare gas. It's an accessory sport. Oh, and I got matches as well, just in case. These matches came from London, by the way. You've got to have all the stuff.
Right. Just paraphernalia around you.
Correct.
Do you know what you remind me of? A cyclist, like a middle-aged man who's not necessarily
middle-aged
fit
man in lycra.
and gets into his lycra with his $25,000 carbon fiber bike and his penguin shoes. That's what you remind me of. All the gear, no idea.
The mammal. Yeah, middle-aged man in lycra.
Is that what they call them? Middle-aged man mammals.
Yeah. Mammal.
You know, if I was a politician, I know people joke about me going to politics all the time. Do you know what my first order of business would be?
Banning mammals?
Yes. Literally on Beach Road. That is it. You're done. Your time is up. No cyclists on Beach Road. Nah, don't want to hear it. Don't care. Off. Out. Get out of my bloody way. That would be my first order of business. So therefore, half of our
a lot of people who would agree with you. A lot of people would agree with you.
I wouldn't mind if they actually just rode single file and didn't like jeopardize everyone because they're just too egotistical, but they'll ride the shop rides. No, it's the shop rides, right? Like there's 50 of them all in a group and they're riding 3 abreast and they know they're only meant to be 2, but they're 3 and they take all these like little liberties and you can't get past them. And then traffic on Beach Road is crap. And then what happens is people get mad and annoying and then try and get past them. And then that's when shit goes down.
It creates problems. Yeah, I will say, having done a lot of kilometers on bikes in my younger years, riding single file is extremely dangerous because cars will just blast past you as though you're not there. Not everyone. There's lots of people who do try and leave room, but there are people who just don't care. And being 2 abreast is infinitely safer because it blocks that lane and it forces people to actually give you room. I've got a lot of sympathy, from time to time. I don't see it so much these days, but there was a while there where you'd see bikes and they would have put a pole across the back of the bike, like a meter-long pole that sticks out sort of, a half a meter on each side of the bike. And it's just, it'll scratch your paintwork if you go too close to them. And it just forces motorists to go, I better give him a wide berth. I get it. I completely understand why they do it. I also understand how annoying it is when cyclists take over the road and treat it like they can just slow everyone down. So I see both sides.
It's
banning
a Saturday and Sunday thing. It's just frustrating on a Saturday and Sunday when you want to go down the beach, like because there's also on Beach Road there is a cycle path. It's a shared path. It's for bikes and walking. So they do have somewhere to go, but
the problem is, and again, I'm going to go into bat for cyclists here. I can scarcely believe it. But again, having done a lot of long distance riding, the shared paths are not a place for going at high speed cycling speeds.
No, of course not. No, because they're shared paths.
So if they're out there to actually cover some distance and go for a ride, I can understand riding on the road even if there is a shared path available, just because you end up blasting past people with prams and kids and dogs and all kinds of stuff, and it just actually creates its own dangers.
I feel like they should just have designated routes, Anyway, that's my hill. I'm sure I'm pissing people off.
I feel like you should just get over it. Yeah.
I want to get over it. I want to drive Beach Road. Anyway, all right. So first order of foreign affairs.
We're starting with the heavy stuff. You said this is going to be real serious.
Oh, this one's going to take all your brain power.
Adam Hyde's new song will feature not safe for work audio of him and Abby Chatfield. Oh, Carly, you could have given me a warning. You could have. Sorry, I'm going to have to complete that for people that are listening. I didn't see that coming. Audio of him, Adam Hyde, and Abby Chatfield in the sack. Really?
Could we be more desperate for attention? Could we be scraping the bottom of the barrel? So a couple of things here. I'm going to take them off. Like, just look that you can smell them from here, can't you?
Okay. Firstly, I want to reflect on the fact that if you just said to me Adam Hyde, I would have no idea who you were talking about. This bloke might be famous within certain circles, but he's certainly like, that's a completely generic, nondescript name to me. I would have had no idea who you were talking about.
Yeah, so he's the guy from Peking Duck. Anyway, Abby Chatfield's boyfriend. You can just smell them. You just know their house stinks, don't you? And their sheets are like...
Oh, no, Carly.
Okay.
Really?
A couple of things. They're not the first to do it. Axl Rose had...
show, Carly.
Sorry, this is culture. This is culture. Unfortunately, this is it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're a Guns N' Roses fan, but there is a Guns N' Roses song where Axl Rose sleeps with a bandmate's girlfriend and then puts her sounds into the song. So
right.
Adam Hyde is not the first to do it. But I just feel like they know they're notorious. They know that they're polarizing. And that's just an example. Like, this is the kind of marketing I have no time for. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. Oh, we're going to do this thing. We're so avant-garde. We're so different. Look at us. We're so edgy. I'm like, actually, that's the most predictable thing you could do.
Yeah, this is an actor coming out as non-binary. This is Bonnie Blue trying to hit a new high score. It's just that shock jock stuff. And who was it that published that? Was that Pedestrian published that?
Yeah.
It's so there is an entire industry. For those that don't know, everyone that's in the public eye, and this would include Peking Duck, they have publicists and they have agents and they have advisors around them who are their job, their focus is to try and keep these people's careers going well and keep the money rolling in because that's what they get paid to do. And so these people are sitting around in offices in various parts of the world debating how they should have their whoever it is that they represent do a thing next to get back into the headlines. This is why we see the steady stream of this person's come out as trans, this person's come out as non-binary, this person's a lesbian now. You know, all these headlines are, some of them are genuine, sure. Okay, I don't discount that some of these people are genuinely going to, you know, have those things and moments in their life. But a lot of it is just marketing. It is a case of an agent, a little starlet who used to be the darling, whose career is kind of coming off the boil because someone else has captured the teeny bopper market. And then they go to their agent and their agent goes to them, well, listen, we need to grow you up a little bit. We need to glam you up a little bit. You've got to get the puppies out and you've got to maybe come out as lesbian and then we'll get the headlines again and you'll get to tour again and you'll get the money again. There is literally an industry built around this kind of marketing.
Yeah, I just find it so predictable, so boring. But I thought since everyone is such a esteemed fan of Abby Chatfield, I had to share it. So you're welcome.
Well, I didn't say thank you. Moving on.
All right. Okay. So next one. This is a story. This is a local story, but I thought this would get us fired up because it got me fired up. So I found this on Instagram randomly, and this woman also lives where I do in the Bayside area, and she posted this. So I'm just going to share her video, and then we can get into it. So, and
go to bed every night, to be honest.
Hang on.
Just another day of why the fuck are we living in Melbourne today? I don't know if you've kept up with what's happening in Melbourne at the moment, but personally, Ty and I are scared to go to bed every night, to be honest. We keep our car keys in a place where they can be taken easily because the amount of crime, break-ins, beatings, and car stealings, car thefts that are happening around our suburb, in our street, in our complex, absurd. From people who are aged about 14 to 16, they don't get any repercussions, they don't go to jail, they literally get a slap on the wrist, they get let out, and they reoffend the next night. Mm-hmm. It is prolific in this area. We received a knock on the door a few weeks ago asking if Millie still lives here. Millie, my dog. I said, yeah, Millie still lives here, she's right there. Oh, because she's not registered. And I was like, oh, yeah, I must have missed that this year. I haven't received anything. Well, now there's a late registration fee. And I thought, okay, okay, for an $80 registration fee, what would you think? A fair and reasonable price for a missed dog registration. She was meant to be registered in April. It's now October, so she's a few months late. I thought maybe double the cost, maybe $200 maximum. Okay, nope. No, my local council has amnesty machete bins to pay for because they spent $13 million on that, thinking that these violent criminals were good people that would just hand over their weapons. So they have that to pay for. So I have $407 to pay because of a late registration fee. Now, I've gone through all of my emails. I have searched Millie, Bayside Council, registration, and I cannot find this email or emails anywhere. Now, if I was a council, I would probably be thinking, would we rather people pay $80 or $407 because it's 5 times the amount? I know, let's make the emails look spammy so they go to spam, and therefore we can charge $400 as opposed to $80. But I also then received another notice of comply to still pay her registration fee. So not only do we have to pay the late fee of $407, it's also now another $87. So it's about $500 to register my dog this year. I told her she should start paying rent. But I'm also questioning, why the fuck are we in Melbourne?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's a good question.
this is a good post for a couple of reasons. This is a totally non-political person. This is just a regular Joe. I'm not too sure who this woman is, but good on her for
Pretty
putting
sure
it
her
out there.
name's not Joe. Oh, it might be. I guess Joe's a female name. Yeah. Okay.
Could be. So, and I know nothing about this woman. I just saw that and I saved it. But what I like about this is your average Joe now. This is the silent majority starting to go, what the hell is going on? This is ridiculous. Like, how obscene.
What am I
the
paying
fine for not registering your dog, which I think we talked about this last week, didn't we? Registering your pet.
Oh, we talked a lot about councils last week and how we're just getting nothing, no value for our money.
So $87 to register your pet, and that's just so the council knows that you have a pet. You get nothing for that, nothing at all. And then if you don't pay the $87, they have the resources to send someone to your house to knock on the house to make sure that the dog's still there, and then they can send you a $470 late fee on top of the registration. That is outrageous. I would not be paying that. I would take them to VCAT over that.
So this is no different, and I mean this is no different to having a mafia standover man arrive at your door and say, hey, that's a nice dog you've got there. Be a shame if something happened to it, right? They are literally leveraging, they're getting you in the spot where, like, people will pay thousands of dollars for their pets, and they'll pay thousands of dollars in vet fees to try and save their life from cancer or whatever it may be. People love their pets. They're a great source of revenue. It's a little bit like road traffic fines. It's just this cash cow that they can milk. I certainly would not put it past councils to intentionally make their emails end up in spam. That's the kind of thing that, unfortunately, there are people cynical enough to do, but I can't say for sure that they do. But what is for sure is that they know that they can jack up the cost of having a pet pretty much as they want. People are not going to get rid of the pets they already own just on the basis that it's too expensive. Now, they'll pay the money. They'll find the money. Then by and large, people won't not get a pet because of the cost. It's kind of this, it's relatively inelastic. It doesn't respond to the costs that councils impose. But I want to look at this from another angle. The council will say, well, it costs money to run a database. This is user pays. We have to run the database. That keeps track of who's got a pet and who doesn't, and whether they're microchipped and what the microchip is. We have to maintain that register. All right, that's what the $87 pays for, and then for the pound to operate. Okay, couple of things. Have you noticed? That Meta can successfully keep vast amounts of information that we all put there and charge us absolutely nothing? Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that Google Drive can put vast amounts of information, terabytes of information that we choose to store within our Google Drives, etc., and it's a cost of with $7 a month, or if it's only gigabytes of information, you get it for free. Don't try and tell me that keeping a register of this person's name at this address with a dog that is of this type and has a microchip number of this needs to cost $86 a year as a user pays cover your costs. type of approach. That's complete bollocks. It's the same thing they do with car registrations and stamp duties and everything else. Oh no, this is user pays. We're making sure that people cover the costs of us maintaining a register of this information. Well, maybe that was a credible argument back when the register was a physical filing system with a secretary that had to be able to go through it. These days with digital databases, there are free databases all over the world that are secure. They're encrypted. They're being properly managed and properly run that store far more information, and we pay absolutely nothing for it. So this idea that we have to pay $86, as a user pays is ridiculous. The final part of that is they say, oh, well, this funds the pound. This funds the, we need people to send out, need to send out dog catchers for stray dogs and for this and for that. Okay. And then charge the cost of that in the same way as you go and, the council will go and pick up an abandoned car and then send the bill to the person that car was last registered to. Do the same with dogs, do the same with cats. And then even if that person doesn't come and collect the dog or cat, they end up being put out for adoption or being destroyed, pursue that person for that payment because that cost was incurred by them. Don't socialize the cost onto everybody. But this is unfortunately yet another example of how councils, along with state governments and federal governments, have flipped the relationship between the people and themselves. They are supposed to be our servants. They are supposed to be providing for us services that we demand and that we need from them. They're meant to be serving our best interests. What's happened now is they've flipped that relationship on its head and they've said, no, you will serve us. You will tremble when we knock on the door and tell you that you owe us money for reasons that we've decided make sense. You will obey all of our systems and processes and comply with what we say you have to comply with. Now, this might only be a small example, but it's yet another example of how our relationship with our own government has been flipped on its head.
Well, it's also like people will comply. This is the thing. Like, I don't know this woman, so I'm not speaking for her, but she's likely going to pay that bill because she feels like she has to.
She's going to. Yeah.
And it's like a lot of the people during COVID who paid all their COVID fines. We all knew they would get thrown out. We all knew there was no standing behind those. But, pardon me, there's a lot of people who, want to do the right thing, whatever that means, and, will pay them and go, oh, 100%. So that's why they get away with it. When you speak about the mafia, I'll tell you a funny story because I feel like this anecdote makes sense. When we moved into our new house, within a couple of hours of us arriving, we had a couple of magpies sitting on the fence post. Now, this is like early October, and all I could think is, well, shit, right? I like my eyeballs. I want them in my head. And I looked at these two Maggies and I went, I got a choice here. I felt like that was like a new to the neighborhood. Huh? Well, shame if one of those eyes got pecked out, wouldn't it? And so I went inside. I grabbed this little jar of pecans that I randomly had, and I gave them some pecans, and then they took it, and they were like, and then they came back the next day. So now, it's a running joke, but I open the front door and I have this, and I buy walnuts and pecans to keep the magpies at bay. There's 4 of them. Sometimes there's 5, but the 5th one, he might be the man and he gets a bit aggressive with them. Anyway, regardless, I'm now paying native birds just so they leave me alone. That's what I feel like the council is.
This is why you should never negotiate with terrorists. You don't negotiate with terrorists because they will always come back for more. It's as simple as that.
And they do. And boy, are they noisy if I don't.
Look, when I come to your place to do the Oddcast, I have to make sure I can leave a trail of crumbs off to one side of the path. Otherwise, they're just like, no, you haven't paid the toll. You haven't paid the toll to come through that fence.
It's the swooping tax. But this thing with the council is outrageous. And now that I have a little bit more time, I wouldn't mind. So there's Council Watch, right? He's doing God's work. For goodness me. I cannot remember his name. God, is it Darren? No. Oh, God, I feel terrible. I've forgotten his name. Anyway, so Council Watch is doing exactly this, that he's keeping tabs on what everyone's up to, what they're doing. And, I live in the Bayside area, so which is quite a very affluent area on some sides. Obviously that incorporates Brighton, Hampton, and all the beachfront properties. So their rates must be astronomical. I have no idea. I've not looked into it.
Yeah.
So you got to imagine there's a bit of a war chest there. Then why is it I can drive around and see decay in one of the most affluent areas of this state? It's second to what? It'd be second to Toorak, surely, as far as affluence.
Don't know about second, but it'd be right up there. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're talking like proper beachfront, fancy Brighton homes. So I look, I have no idea. But the point is, if you can have a house along the Golden Mile that's worth 20 mil or 30 mil, and that's in your council rates.
Yeah,
But
that's
yet
right.
I can walk down your footpath and the concrete is cracked, the bins are overflowing. There's weeds growing up through all of the concrete pylons and things like that. You got to ask yourself, what the hell are you doing with the money?
Yeah.
Like literally, what are you
Yeah.
doing with that money? And so we've got a lot of like dog spaces in Bayside. And when I say a lot of them, I mean they're tiny little clusters of space where you
Yeah.
are permitted to have your dog off lead. Now,
Yeah.
I talked about this last week, not to go over the same point twice, but I understand that people have crappy dogs. I know my dogs have been mauled themselves. Like I get that there's bad dog owners. So I understand why we don't want dogs running around where children's playgrounds are. Totally on board with that. But the issue is when you have these small areas and they are small and you're saying that's the only place where your dog can go and run, that means that you're actually making it way more hostile because like dogs don't necessarily all get along. They're not allowed to run on the beach. They're only allowed to run this little area. And I know myself, I don't go there a lot because I have a dog that's been mauled and she's not good with other dogs now, right? So now I have to sort of go outside of, normal times or I just don't go. And if I don't go, well, then now I'm going to have a dog that's out the back barking. So this sounds so trivial, but what it is, it's actually creating more problems. Now, I'm not saying that dogs should be allowed to go everywhere. I'm not saying that at all. But there certainly needs to be more designated areas. And what I can see with the council, they're like, oh, we did a thing. We put this little box there. You're good. Thank you very much. That little box cost them nothing. That park was already there. They just said, oh, this is a designated dog area. And they've put like one wheelie bin, which, by the way, every time I go to those dog parks, that wheelie bin is overflowing with dog shit. And they might give you those little plastic bags if you're lucky. But most of the time they're empty because people obviously take more than they should. Anyway, my point is, where is this money going? Literally, where is it going? What are they spending it on?
But also, what's the incentive from an enforcement point of view? And we see this with the road rules as well. So they've got a limited amount of money, and let's say a council's running out of money because they've spent too much money on rainbow-coloured crosswalks and junkets across the world to sister cities for their councillors. They're running out of money. Now, they've got a problem with, let's say, graffiti. They could invest more money into cleaning up graffiti, or more money into cleaning weeds out of gutters, or more money into their footpath maintenance, or more money into their park maintenance. The problem is none of those things lead to revenue. None of those things, they are a cost. As far as the council is concerned, these are a pure cost to them. However, they could go and find people that didn't stay up to date with the registration of their dogs. That's a source of revenue. So from a council's point of view, when they start to run low on money, where are they going to divert resources? Into the thing that makes them money. We know they're going to do that. We know that the police forces do that. That came out in Tasmania. It was explicit. It was some years ago now. There was an inquiry in Tasmania where the police minister at the time point blank acknowledged, like said the quiet part out loud, that yes, absolutely, the state government was ramping up enforcement on their roads as a measure to try and plug the state budget at the time. Like this is, we know that they do this. So unfortunately what happens then, and this is part of that inversion of the relationship, they're no longer sitting there going, we are stewards, we are butlers, we are servants of the ratepayers, and it is our job to make sure that we're keeping them happy. What they're doing is they're saying, we work in this corporation called a local government, a local city council, and we have a budget to balance. How can we exploit more money out of our little catchment, out of this little protection racket that we've got going on, out of our turf? How do we exploit more money out of that so that we can achieve our objectives, which is to shove wokeness down their throats and have junkets for the councillors and all that sort of stuff? We've got this complete reversal. I want to jump from this, if I may, into the issue of the working from home decision that the Australian Tax Office made, because this, in my mind, is directly relevant to this. So we had a situation where, if I can find my picture here, the Australian Taxation Office lost a court case where they were arguing that you could not tax deduct part of the cost of your rent if you worked from home. So it's well known you can deduct part of the cost of your mortgage if you have a home office. That's well established in tax law. What they were arguing was if you're a renter, it doesn't apply. You can't do that. And it was an ABC presenter. I'm just trying to find the article here.
How
It
does
was an
that
ABC
work?
presenter.
How do they justify that? Yeah, what's the difference?
Well, I don't think there is a difference, and that's what the the Administrative Appeals Tribunal found. So it was a ABC radio presenter Ned Hall claimed the occupancy costs of a second bedroom in his apartment from which he worked during the pandemic. And the Administrative Appeals Tribunal have agreed with him and said, yes, that is now a tax deduction if you're working from home as an office. Now, the ATO are appealing. They're trying to get this overturned, and they're appealing. I'm going to read to you what gets said. This is an article on 7 News. According to the 2021 census, almost a third of households in Australia are renters, meaning even just a fraction of claims could cost the government billions of dollars, right? So in other words, it's going to reduce revenue by billions of dollars. Now, what this means, I'm trying to find the exact quote that I had earlier. Okay, here we go. So the Australian Taxation Office is fighting to overturn the decision that it says could create a massive hole in the federal budget and catch this last bit of the sentence, and cost taxpayers billions. Now think about how nonsense that sentence is. Who are the taxpayers? Well, the people who are paying the tax. So they're literally saying if you get to pay less tax, you're costing taxpayers. But the people who get to pay less tax are the taxpayers. Like this is a 7 News article quoting a statement made by the Australian Taxation Office that is literally treating it as if all of our money already belongs to them, and that anything that happens that reduces how much money we have to hand over to them is some terrible cost to taxpayers. They literally believe that they own us.
Yeah, I've seen this a lot, and from what I've heard, the ATO's got a lot of teeth at the moment. Like I saw a story last week. I didn't think it was worth bringing up on the podcast, but there's a reality TV star, Sam Wood, who's done quite well for himself. He built a fitness app and he sold it for 70 million. So he's he's quite financial, and I think he's invested into the Sweat app by Kayla Itsinas. I don't know enough about it, but just to embarrass him, the ATO have tried to sue him for $7 million in unpaid taxes. Now, most people in business understand that, if like you are constantly doing things and maneuvering and shuffling things around, a blanket statement like he owes $7 million in tax makes it sound like he's some kind of criminal. I dare say there's something going on behind there that maybe we don't know. Maybe it was revenue that hasn't been disclosed yet or hasn't settled yet. I don't know. I have no idea. All I'm saying is putting that article out, that hit piece out, was to make people go, oh, fuck this guy, tax the rich.
That's right.
I thought that was what the comments would say. And I was pleasantly surprised. Actually, I should bring it up. I was pleasantly surprised by how nice the comments were to Sam Wood, saying, I wouldn't pay money to this government either. This is ridiculous. And that's what I mean. Like when I'm looking for that tone shift, it's there. You just got to find it. People are like, this government, like everything goes to tax, and I thought, wow, we are shifting. So hang on, here we go.
So before you bring that one up, I want to bring up Paul Hogan. He's the actor who played Crocodile Dundee. The ATO chased him for, I don't know, was it a decade or 2 decades for what they alleged were unpaid taxes. He fought them the whole way. He denied it the whole way. There were multiple rounds of headlines against Paul Hogan, trying to demonize Paul Hogan, all the rest of it. In the end, the ATO walked away. They walked away. They stopped. Now, you don't get an apology for that. You don't get a refund for all the money you had to spend on tax accountants and lawyers and everything else to fight them. And they don't even officially say, okay, we've discovered that he did nothing wrong. They don't even do that. They just stop. They just go, oh, we've dropped to the investigation. After that, they actually started going after his tax accountant, and that's still ongoing. But at the moment, I think that's about 5 years in, and they're trying to now pin the guy who basically helped Paul Hogan to not have to pay as much tax as what they wanted, clearly legally, because they dropped all the investigations. So now they're like, oh well, we're going to go after you because you're enabling people to pay less tax legally. So the Taxation Office are genuine standover men. This is not metaphorical. This is an organized crime syndicate, and they are the shakedown merchants.
Yeah, 100%. And this is the thing. I think people start like Australians are slowly, and I know it's painful for those of us who have been on this train for a while. It's painful to see how long
Yes.
it takes for people to wake up. But now I'm hearing this all the time, just from regular people, right? People who aren't politically active, and they're saying like, "I've got no surplus cash. I'm paying so much money. There's nothing left over. Like I keep getting
I'm
a
getting
tax
nothing
bill."
for
Blah,
my
blah, blah.
money.
100%. And yet you still have people like Jacinta Allen and the Labor government going out there going, well, we're going to give you something free. It's like people haven't quite worked it out yet, right? Free
But people
means
are.
our
People are.
taxes go up.
Yeah,
Well,
that shift is happening. People are realizing it. Is it too little, too late? Well, I don't think so. I think there's a good chance that it's not too late for us in Australia. I'm actually quite optimistic. But we need to continue this process of people realizing, yeah, nothing's free. Everything comes at a cost. And if you can't make ends meet on a full-time salary, it's probably not your boss's fault anymore. It's probably the government's.
Yeah. So I just like this wasn't planned for the show, but I did come across this last week, and reading the comments here is like the ATO is one of the biggest organized crime groups. Hang in, Sam, don't let them label you something. What was it? You mean extortion by the biggest crime mafia, the government? So like, the comments were really refreshing. There's obviously a couple of idiots in there, but I just thought to myself, like, yeah, okay, Australians are starting to get it. You're starting to get it. And especially when you're starting to see stories like, our living standards are declining compared to other countries. I think people looking around going, well, it is.
Yep.
It is declining. I do feel like things are getting harder. I certainly feel like that,
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm somewhat buoyed by that.
There's a famous kind of principle in politics that says it's the economy, stupid. And the idea basically is that if the economy is getting better, the current government will win the next election. If the economy is getting worse, they'll get thrown out in favor of the opposition. Now, obviously, that's not always true, but think of it as like a headwind. If the economy is getting worse, it gets harder for the incumbent government to get reelected. And there's a very simple way to cut through all the noise, and this has been done in politics before. I just can't remember which election it was, to simply ask, are you better off now?
Yeah.
Are you better off now than you were when the current government came in? And there would be a lot of Australians who would categorically say, no, I'm not better off now than I was in 2022, 23, whenever it was that Albo came in. 23, I think it was. No, I'm not better off. I am worse off. It does feel harder. And all the numbers show that it's harder. We're down to about 2012 living standards, probably below by now, but the numbers lag behind a little bit. We've lost a decade's worth of economic growth and improvement in our lives in the last 2 years. Right. That's how quickly this drop off has happened. Now, I'm not saying that the Liberals are good economic managers, not by a long shot. I'm no fan of theirs. I'm not going to re-prosecute that now. But what we've seen from Albo, when Albo was elected, it was a couple of months ago, I released a video asking the question, is Albo our Chavez? Right? And that's a provocative question. That's a provocative question. A lot of people are like, don't be ridiculous. Well, unfortunately, I made my points in that video, and all that's happened since then has only kind of vindicated that point. Can I riff on this for a minute? Is that going to wreck your plans for the show? I want to bring up a couple of things here, because when I find the correct tab, which is here, and I go present, I wish to put up an image. So we have this amazing announcement. Everybody, you're about to get free energy. The green energy revolution means that you're going to get 3 hours of free electricity every day under this new solar scheme that has been announced by Chris Bowen. Now, what this is demand management. They've got a critical problem. And I explained this in the video that I did where I had the poker chips and I was explaining how the bid stack works. The problem is we have a massive oversupply of energy in the middle of the day. And this is what they use to say, oh, it's free energy. No, it's energy that we have to shed, we have to use, we have to offload. Otherwise, the grid's going to go down. That doesn't make it free. In fact, it's imposing all kinds of external costs on the operating of the system. But what they do is they shift all the costs across so that it looks like it's coal and gas that's causing those costs. Actually, it's the abundance or the oversupply, the uncontrolled oversupply of solar and wind power that is forcing those other things to run inefficiently. But now I want to contrast this. Okay, sorry, a little bit more on this. What they're doing is they're saying between, I think it's 11 a.m. and 2 p.m., you will get free power if you have a smart meter and you sign up to the program and everything else. And the energy retailers are not allowed to adjust the other prices to recoup the lost revenue. All right. So this is now the government directly making business decisions and completely micromanaging how the so-called energy market works. So we don't have a free market in energy at all. We haven't for a long time, but this is another step down that pathway. What this means is that the people who spent the money on rooftop solar, because remember the government said, hey, if you do this, we'll give you these generous feed-in tariffs, it'll pay for itself, blah, blah, blah. The people that did the right thing, quote unquote, they are now providing energy that is going to get given away to people who didn't spend that money. This is the producers having what they produce taken from them and given away to people who are not producers. This is Communism 101. Now, add to this story. I'm going to take this one down because we've talked before about StreamYard's a bit clumsy. I'm going to have to remove that one, and give me one sec while I bring up the next one, because this happened this weekend.
I actually had something to tie into this too. It's Simon Holmes a Court who's talking about green energy. But all of this is like this diaphanous sort of attempt to greenwash people to thinking they're doing good things. Do you like it? Do you like it? I didn't actually get the full sentence out because you start seething.
It's
a thinly veiled attempt at greenwashing people. Come on, I won.
Moving on. This is a picture from yesterday, Tuesday. Damaged solar panels can be dangerous. This is a picture out of Queensland because they've just had hailstorms, which happens on a semi-regular basis. Every couple of years, they have hailstorms so severe up in southeast Queensland that people get hospitalized from them. And so damaged solar panels can be dangerous. Here's what to do if wild weather has impacted yours. Well, there's some very much impacted solar panels. Now, that's happening across rooftops all over that part of Australia. It happens on a semi-regular basis to these various grid-scale solar farms. Now, the point I want to make here is that the chemicals and the heavy metals that are leaching out of those panels have no half-life. People are terrified of nuclear waste because it has a half-life that makes it dangerous for thousands of years. This stuff has no half-life. It never becomes less toxic. It can be diluted and spread, but you have to literally remove it from the environment. It never becomes safe over any period of time. We are spreading this stuff all over suburbia where people live, and we are spreading this stuff all over farmland where we grow our food, and then hailstorms happen, and all of that land is going to be affected by toxic heavy metals and chemicals that are going to be leaching out of these panels that we see right here. Not to mention that removing them is incredibly dangerous because you can't really switch off a solar panel. It is live. If there's sunlight on it, it's live. It's going to be producing electricity. And now you've got chemicals leaching out of these panels as well. So this is what is being done in the name of saving the environment. This is what's meant to be environmentalism in today's day and age. And when you have these things happening simultaneously, you've got a grid that is so unstable that they are having to try and demand manage and manipulate us into using the energy at particular times of day. This comes back to what I said before about that reversal of the relationship. The whole idea of a utility is that it's there for us when we need it. It serves the human beings. Well, now they've created such instability in the grid that they're having to tell the humans to serve the needs of the grid. Hey, you need to shift your power usage to a time when it suits the utility, not the utility is going to be there for you when it suits you. We are literally watching a reversal of our relationship with the government and now with the power grid.
Yeah. Can I show you this from Simon Holmes the Court? I never say his name right, whatever. So these people are so either in their echo chamber or just completely tone deaf because they sit in their ivory towers. Don't Tolkien me. Don't Tolkien. I know you want to. So Simon Holmes the Court.
I'll just sit here and blow smoke rings instead.
I know you're talking about those in ivory tower. Go on, say it. Do it.
No. I'm not going to do it.
Get it out.
No, you're being ungrateful. You're being ungrateful for my deep wisdom. Okay, fine. Childless lords sitting in ivory towers musing on heraldry. This is what we have. Out of touch people who are not invested in the future and are more worried about how things seem than how things are. Are you happy now?
So let's take good old Simon. He's a billionaire because of his father, right? Like he's not a billionaire from his own efforts. So he's also a nasty person. Nothing about him seems likable. I really do not like people who behave like this. Anyway, he's posted this tweet. It's a link to The Guardian where they're saying, they're talking about the story you just said about getting the 3 hours a day. And he says, add a home battery and an EV, and most households would never need to pay a petrol bill ever again, which on its surface makes sense. Yeah, if you don't have a petrol car, you probably won't have to pay petrol. But most Australians don't have what would it be for me just to right now go on out and do exactly what he said, to go and buy 14, 15, 16 solar panels and install them, plus a battery, plus get rid of my petrol car, which, by the way, I own outright and runs like a dream, to go and buy an EV. I'm going to say somewhere around the 100K, somewhere there, right?
Yeah.
So I need to pay 100K to start saving money on not paying petrol. Now, on top of that, those solar panels only work when there's sun. When it's overcast, you're getting a lot less things. So I still am going to have access to the grid. I know he wasn't talking about the grid, but during winter, when it's dark and it's cold, I still need to run my heating. I'm still going to be using the grid. Anyway.
Yeah.
Go on to go. Sorry, go.
And I would like to know, hang on. No, I need to remove that one. There we go. I would like to know how much power is coming out of these solar panels right now. Because even after you spent all that money, it's very, very vulnerable.
Well, it's vulnerable. So, I mean, that's an extreme case, right? But like solar panels actually expire. I think they only last 10 to 15 years, right? Certainly some of the cheaper ones, and they need to be replaced, and they end up in landfill, and you have to replace the solar panels. So let's just think about this, because this is how most people think about finance. Oh, it's cheaper today. Yeah, but how much are you spending long term, right? So let's just say, I'm using very round figures. I don't know what the actual cost is, but let's say $100,000. $100,000 just to get set up like Simon Holmes a court. Now that to him is probably his daily allowance. I don't know how he spends his money. But for me, that's my annual wage, right? I need to spend that so I can save petrol money. So I need to buy a whole new car. I need to put the panels on the roof. I need to get them installed, and I need to get a battery, and then hope to God that I always get sunny days and I have enough residual power in my battery. This is how out of touch these people are. So $100,000, let's say I also have to own. I can't rent and do the solar thing. So at that, you can't get a personal loan for $100,000. That has to be borrowed on against your mortgage. Or so not only that, you're taking out a loan to do this thing, and then you're paying back to the bank for the loan to not have the petrol. This is crazy. Most people can't afford this. But Simon Holmes a court, a billionaire who has interests and assets in the green energy sector, is like, everyone, it's so easy. Why aren't you doing it?
So easy. And then you add to that the opportunity cost of what could and should have been done with the money that's now being spent to replace what we already have. This is the green grid is the ultimate example of the broken windows fallacy. So there's an economic fallacy that says even a broken window creates economic stimulus, all right? So if someone runs around and smashes all the windows, well, now the glazier is getting paid to install new windows. The window maker is getting installed to manufacture the glass. The transport company is getting paid to do all the bits involved in repairing those broken windows. So therefore, broken windows are good for the economy. What's missed in that equation is that all you're left with at the end is an economy that's worth what it already was before. So money's changed hands, but you're just back in the same condition you were to begin with, which is you've got windows. Replacing a perfectly functional fossil fuel based grid with a, let's assume, and I'm being very generous here, a functional renewables grid, which it's anything but functional, but let's just say replacing one with the other at stupendous cost, all it does is leave us back where we were to start with. We have not added value to the economy. We've created economic activity, but we've not actually created anything of any increased value for our kids. Telling people stop using the perfectly good petrol car you have right now and replace it with an electric car. Well, you've lost all the value that was in the petrol car. That becomes a stranded asset. So even and the opportunity cost of what else could have been done with the money, because you already had a perfectly good car, the money that went into another perfectly good car could have gone into other things that would have added value to our society. And this really, really matters on a generational scale. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The economy is essentially what each of us produces on average minus what each of us consumes on average, right? And if we're producing more than we consume, the world gets richer and we leave more to our kids as a generation. And if we're consuming more than we produce, we leave less to our kids. Spending all of our time replacing perfectly good things with other perfectly good things that don't do anything really substantially better is wasted opportunity to have created things that could have been a generational asset that we could have passed on to our kids. Even worse, taking on stupendous amounts of debt to then fund the economic activity to not make the world better, to just replace a working thing with another working thing. Now we're passing the debt on to our kids. We are actively making our kids poorer by spending our time and energy investing into something that is no better than what we already had.
Yeah. The whole thing's just crazy. And so just for the record too, your life changes too. And I don't know if this is worthy saying, but I was just thinking about this as you were talking. So I've had my Jeep 10 years, right? So it's got 220,000 Ks on it. And sure, like I've had to pay for it to be serviced. I've had to replace some bits and pieces on it. You know, and say what you guys will in the comments, it's been a really good car to me. It's a big car, so I've been able to move house with it. I bought it for my old company so I could use it as a billboard and also to transport stock around. Now as a photographer, it serves me really well. We can go traveling in it. We can take it most places as a four-wheel drive. Like, you know, whether or not you like Jeeps or not, as a car, it's like a great utility car. It serves so many purposes. The one thing it does have against it is it's not very aerodynamic and therefore it uses a lot of fuel. That is the only thing I'll say. But that's fine.
It is
that's fine.
like a brick.
I like burning dinosaurs. Anyway, I would rather Dexter though than a G-Wagon. I don't understand the Mercedes G-Wagon. I don't get it. Anyway, that's also a brick. Anyway, I digress. So in that 10 years, right? Like, so I bought it for my 29th birthday. I had a clothing company and then we had COVID and now I'm a photographer and my life has changed. I've lived in remote areas or regional areas. I lived down in Torquay. I've lived in the city. And so at different points in my life, I've needed more or less petrol. I've been traveling further or shorter. So at the moment, because I predominantly work from home and I don't really need to go a lot of places, a tank of petrol lasts me a month, but there have definitely been times in my life where I was traveling up and back from Torquay to Melbourne 3 times a week and I was going through 2 tanks of petrol. So the reason I bring that up is like over 10 years, if you average it out, like, you know, there's days when I don't need to spend $1 on that car, but with an EV, you are constantly having to charge it. You are constantly having to pull power from it. And I just find it fascinating that we are sitting here advocating for people to go and replace your gas stove, replace your petrol car, buy new things. What do we do with the now redundant stuff? What do we do with the perfectly good central heating and the perfectly good gas stove and the perfectly good petrol-powered cars? Do we just put them in landfill?
Yeah, that's the issue with a stranded asset. Can we run some numbers on energy consumption just for a second? Because it's helpful, I think, to paint a picture of just how big this electrification of transport is going to be. I did a video some time ago, so my numbers will be a little bit out of date, but they'll still be broadly true. The petrol grid, the liquid energy grid, by which I mean all the tankers, the refineries, the ships going around the world, etc., in Australia is delivering a very similar number of kilowatt hours into our vehicles in the form of petrol and diesel as our electricity grid is delivering in kilowatt hours in the form of electricity. So we have 2 energy grids, one in liquid form, one in electrical form, and they're about the same size as each other. So what that means is that our electricity grid would have to basically double in capacity if we electrified all of the stuff that's currently being done and powered through that liquid grid. Let's run some numbers on that. In around where you are in Melbourne and up where I am in southern Australia, you can expect a kilowatt of solar panels to produce on average something like 3 to 3.5 kilowatt hours of energy a day. Right, that's the average across all the seasons, and you average it all out. But in winter, it's going to be a lot less than that. In winter, you could be looking at getting 2 kilowatt hours out of 1 kilowatt's worth of panels every day because it's heavily overcast, and that can be like that for days on end. In order to run a house, you need approximately 20 kilowatt hours a day, depending on the size of the house and what you've got, etc. That's not including a pool. If you've got a pool, you're going to need a lot more. So to run a house in winter, just off solar panels, you need 10 kilowatts of solar panels on your roof. Now, that's a fair bit, but it's not extraordinary. Most roofs,
Yeah.
you could fit that in somewhere. You could probably make that work. But you also need the battery storage. And people say, oh, well, a Tesla Powerwall is not that expensive. It's $7,000, whatever it may be. Yeah, and it's also 5 kilowatt hours, right? That is nothing. That'll get you through a night if it's fully charged as you go into the night, but it's nothing. You need multiple of those. You're going to be spending $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to have enough storage to be able to run you through a couple of sequential overcast days. You're going to be spending probably $50,000, $60,000. I was contacted recently by someone who said they went completely off grid on their remote property. They spent over $100,000 on the solar panels and the batteries. They live in inland New South Wales where they get really good sunshine, a much better ratio than 3 to 1. They're getting probably 4 to 1, 5 to 1 out of their solar panels. They still have to run their generator every couple of weeks during winter to top up their batteries, having spent over $100,000. And here's the kicker. They're not running an electric car. Driving requires vast amounts of energy. So even an energy efficient car needs about 20 kilowatt hours of energy to travel 100 kilometers. So if you're traveling, let's say 200 kilometers in a week, which is 10,000 Ks a year, that's a pretty average, that's actually probably lower than average amount of Ks. You need another, 40 to 50 kilowatt hours of energy. You're going to power that off your roof now? You're going to store that in your batteries? Well, now that whole system just doubled in size. Now, all of a sudden, you need to have 50 kilowatt hours of batteries in your house so that you can charge the 50, 60, 70, 80 kilowatt hour battery in your car. You need the panels to be able to supply that electricity. You're genuinely talking about $200,000 plus per household in order to be able to run reliably through winter and power an electric vehicle. Now,
that's all right. Simon Holmes the court. Insane. He's got the money. He's got the money.
It's properly insane.
This is literally your Tolkien quote, though, because remember how I talked about friend of the show, Abby, when she was like, well, I've got solar, so it doesn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
These people, these champagne socialists are so out of touch. In their mind, they're like, it's not a hard thing to do. They don't think about all these extra bits and pieces and just how hard it is to turn things around. Like most Australian houses, particularly in Victoria, I don't know much about Queensland, but most Victorian houses have central heating, and especially if they were built from the 80s onwards. Most have that. And it's a really good gas-fired. And it is a really good way to warm your house up because we are terrible at insulating our houses in Australia as well. We don't know how to build them for either winter or summer. And so you can turn your heater off and in 5 minutes, the house will be just as cold as outside. So they need a run. And so their solution is to put splits in every room. So don't use your perfectly good central heating. Go and install these split units on every room and put these big, god-awful bloody the return units outside. So outside, like now all of a sudden you've got 4 or 5 return units on your roof. Then put solar on there. And they're noisy. Like, so at our old house, we had the same problem. We had it was a ginormous house. You remember that house. And it did have gas heating and we didn't use it because it was just too expensive, right? Like it would cost us thousands of dollars a month. So we were using the splits. But the problem with the house was, and this is just one house, and I'm sure you guys can think of examples in your own homes. So this was a 2-story house that was open plan and you weren't able to shut off half the rooms. So if you turn the split on, you got a terrible draft coming through the hallway and there was no way to stop the draft. So the only choice you had to keep the room warm was to run the split at high. So it's constantly pumping out hot air. Now, what happens in a 2-story house? All that heat's going upstairs. You go upstairs, that's where all the heat is, but that's not where the lounge room is, right? Yeah. But because the house was so big, it was like, what would you say that house was? 50 squares? Like it was stupid. It was big.
It was a 45, 50 square house. It was a massive thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so you guys know, it was stupid big house. Anyway, so each bedroom had its own split and the 4 bedrooms upstairs had its own return unit. The 2 lounge rooms had their own splits and their own return unit. So I think on the house, there was about 5 different. And all you could hear was like, outside.
The horrible noise.
I'm sitting there going, this is noise pollution now, right? And that house had solar. It had big solar panels and we could see like, what we were getting. It wasn't enough to give it, like we did not have an electricity bill, by the way, because this is the problem with Australian houses. They're poorly insulated. So it's not like you cool it down and then it's cool or you heat it up and it's hot. You have to keep running it. And so someone like Simon, he probably lives in a McMansion that has heated cement floors and, double insulated, double glazed glass. I don't know what rich people do in rich houses in Sydney Harbour, but I can tell you now, the average suburban house in Melbourne isn't built that way.
And the ultimate act of environmentalism is to keep what you've got. This is the thing. When someone says, "Oh, I bought a new car because it's better for the environment," well, sorry, you're an idiot. You keep your old car. Drive a 30-year-old combi van that's burning oil, right? That is more of an environmental car than a Tesla will ever be. Keeping your existing washing machine, keeping your existing heater, keeping your existing house. That's environmentalism. If you really want to actually look at environmental impact, if that's really what concerns you, keep what you've got. The idea, but of course, that's not appealing to consumers, and politicians don't want to be trying to tell people, "Oh, keep what you've got." No, we're going to sell you the shiny new thing and make you spend money, and in fact force you to spend money on these things, because we're going to turn off the gas so you can't use your existing system. We're going to force you to spend money in the name of the environment, which means all of that mining, manufacturing, refining, transporting, etc., all of that has to go on in the name of the environment. How is this helping the environment?
Well, it's not. And it's no different to, and not to bring up my masters again, but this is a video I want to work on around hyperconsumption. We are no longer buying at the rate of replacement. We're buying at we're hoarding, basically. And it's one thing to think about Shein, fast fashion, and Amazon. It's a whole other thing to think about how many times in your life up until now, the last 20, 30 years since you've lived on your own or lived out of home, how many washing machines have you bought? How many times have you had to replace a hairdryer or a fry pan, or rudimentary, things that you wouldn't think about? How often are you replacing them? I remember as a kid, we had the same washing machine my whole childhood. We didn't get a new washing machine. It was the same one. And it did break down every now and then it got fixed. Same with the heater. The only thing we did in our house was we replaced our cars a lot. My parents used to use novated leases, but we had the same TV the whole time, since I was a kid. And now, I was saying this to G the other day. I'm like, how many flat screen TVs have you had since you lived out of home? And I think I've had four.
Yeah, right.
And that's because they've genuinely broken, and you don't fix them. You just buy a new one.
Yeah, you can't fix them. They're not fixable.
I've had 3 washing machines.
Yeah.
I've had 2 dryers. I've had 2 fridges. So I've been out of home, 20 years. You add this up, this planned redundancy. This is deliberate. And now they're like, "Oh, well, you can get this 7-star rating Wi-Fi accessible fridge that uses barely any electricity. So you've got to pay this $2,000 to get this fancy fridge." Or, hear me out, I could use the old Westinghouse fridge that I've had for 30 years that still works a treat. And this is greenwashing. This is basically trying to gaslight consumers into thinking that continually consuming by upgrading, get the next 7-star energy rating, get the new and approved super fancy, super efficient thing. And then of course there's a new one because there's new technology. It's just, this is actually really sinister greenwashing to keep you consuming. Why? Because you are very profitable for these companies. And Simon Holmes a Court, you look at his investment portfolio, it's all green energy. He is invested in you swapping over to EVs and putting solar panels. He benefits from that. Nothing about this is oh, I actually genuinely care about the environment. Because if he did, he wouldn't be asking for all this farmland to be cleared so we can shove solar panels everywhere.
Okay, but Carly, what you're forgetting is that there's an apocalypse coming. And I don't know if you heard the news. I don't know if you heard the news that there's going to be no more snow in Australia. Skiing is a dying thing in Australia. And unfortunately, snow, we're going to have to travel overseas for our kids to ever see snow. But of course, we won't be allowed to because that would consume too much energy and produce too much carbon dioxide. And
you say
this
that
is the
to
proof.
Someone.
This is the proof. This was Mount Hotham. This is now yesterday, went from when this was posted. So this is on the 4th of the 11th, 2025. That's Mount Hotham. We're now well into spring. And that's what Mount Hotham looks like.
I was about to say, you say this to the Melburnian who literally suffered through a 4-degree night last night. It's November. I've still got my puffer jacket out. There's a thing in every Melburnian's life where you either pack the puffer away finally, or you first time pull the puffer out. and the puffer is still like in my normal wardrobe. It hasn't
it's
been
on
returned
rotation,
yet.
Yeah. Now, and look, we're in November now. This is the last month of spring, and we're still getting cold blasts. Now, yes, we've had heat as well, but this is my point. We're having weather. Isn't the apocalypse isn't here, and when we're getting snow in November down in Mount Hotham. Mount Hotham's not a super high mountain, right? And we're getting snow in the middle of November or early in November. I'm sorry, the apocalypse isn't coming.
But I had this probably sort of ties into this. I had a bunch of these set up because I wanted to talk about how the rhetoric from the news is really ramping up. And this is how you know they're losing control of the narrative. So I had a bunch of them here. So this is the first one. This sort of talks about what we were talking about. Aussie experts chilling Chinese EV warning. They're gonna blow up, right? So if you just see that and you've just bought yourself your BYD, or I don't even know what Chinese EVs they are, but oh shit, now the car that you told me I had to buy because, I could be a responsible citizen and environmentally friendly is now going to blow up. There are car parks. There's a story about this. I wasn't going to share it, but like basically car parks across the nation that are full of BYD cars because they're not selling. Right. So this is the first example.
Let me hang on. Let's pause on this for a second because there's a couple of things here. Right. The main risk. Do you remember the movie? Oh gosh, it was an apocalypse movie that was partly funded by the Obamas.
Yeah, it just happened. Like the ship comes onto the beach and it had Julia Roberts in it.
Yeah, and you have that scene where all the cars have stopped and the self-driving cars are smashing, and piling up and that sort of stuff. What this cybersecurity expert was warning of, I can't remember his name, is that these are connected cars. These are internet connected cars. In the same way, like I've got a robot vacuum cleaner. That thing has to be connected back to a server in China. Like, explain that to me. Why does a robot vacuum cleaner need a connection back to a server? So these cars need connection. And unfortunately, they have been designed with vulnerabilities. They're not vulnerabilities as far as the Chinese are concerned, but they are vulnerabilities as far as we're concerned. And think about the impact. Let's say that there was some sort of an actual conflict, right? And someone in China flicks a switch, and let's put aside exploding. In theory, the batteries could be deliberately mismanaged to the point that it would start fires. But let's put that aside for a second and just say that every single BYD, every single MG, because they're Chinese owned, every single one of these electric cars just simply turns off. Can't be moved, can't be used.
Yeah.
It stops wherever it is, on the freeways, in people's driveways, in shopping center car parks, in the middle of intersections. Just every single one turns off. How many tens of thousands of roadblocks have just been created in Australia, let alone in the US, in Europe, etc.? So I actually think the warning here is real. Yes, the media are hyping it. They're trying to get eyeballs. This is the game that we play. But I'm actually going to go into bat a little bit for this particular warning. This is actually a problem. Now, on the BYD car parks thing, BYD are moving a decent number of cars in Australia, and they don't have a traditional dealer network. So in Melbourne, if you were driving out on the Westgate Bridge towards Geelong, you could look to your right and you would see these car parks filled with newly arrived cars. There'd be Volkswagens and Toyotas and all that stuff. They need a fair amount of logistical space to store their inventory as it's coming into the country. BYD don't have that. They're a brand new brand in Australia. They don't have that established logistical infrastructure. So they outsourced it. I looked into this story. I was going to do a video on it and then decided there wasn't enough of a story here. They outsourced it to another logistics company who then went and made deals with things like theme parks and so forth that only have seasonal operating periods. And so they started using those car parks as their logistical staging areas. Now, the sales have not met expectations. It's not that they're not selling, but they haven't met expectations. And there are large numbers of these cars sitting around now. And that's been sort of turned into a big kind of palaver. I don't really buy into it. That is just the vagaries of business. Yeah, there we go.
Leave the World Behind is the movie.
Leave the World Behind. That's the one. This is a genuine possibility, right? This is not pure fantasy. Right. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but this is not outside of the realms of genuine possibility with all of the Chinese cars that we have in Australia today. So I'm kind of going to defend the media a little bit here and say, actually, I think that's a fair warning and that is something the media should be talking about.
Yeah, and you make a good point, to be fair. You make a really good point. But I think there is also someone behind the scenes fanning the flames of hysteria, because
Without doubt.
we also you've had that one. I'm just pulling up this other one. Hang on, sorry, I got to remove that. Because I just keep saving all these articles just to show you, like, if you go and look at news.com or Channel 9 or Channel 7, you look at all the headlines, you would think the apocalypse is here. So here is another one. 2050 prediction should horrify every Aussie. A seriously confronting prediction has emerged showing what Australia might look like within the next 2 decades. So this rhetoric about like shit's happening, things are happening, it's really ramping up. So this is talking about the housing crisis, right? But I just find it really interesting that these headlines are starting to become really, really weighted to like we are heading for a cataclysm. That's where things are going. I didn't even share it. Oh, did I?
Yeah, I was just trying to put it up. There we go. So what is the prediction? What's this prediction that I'm supposed to be horrified by?
Let me read it for you quickly. There is no house prices continuing to skyrocket and smash new records. Many have wondered just what the country's real estate landscape might look like if things keep heading in this direction. New data shows that a long-term average 4% yearly growth rate to project prices to 2050 with truly confronting results. Sydney's median house price set at 1.5 million for 2025 is predicted to more than double in the next 25 years to 3.8 million. Shortly after this was posted, new data was released revealing Sydney's median house price has now risen to a whopping 1.75 million. For Melbourne, the median house price of 953,000 is projected to skyrocket to 2.56 million, and Brisbane could go from 1 million to 2.84 million. Basically talking about long-term pricing.
But that's nothing, because the property in Zimbabwe was worth trillions. What they're actually missing here is they've got this exactly backwards. If housing is going up at 4% per year, well, official inflation is running 2.5% or so. Real inflation is running more like 5 or 6%. What we're actually talking about here is the loss of value in our money. Our money is being debased at an absolute rate of knots. And the housing market is the thing that I think most closely reflects that reality. I did a video a while ago on the fact that if you were buying a house in gold, if you were just paying ounces of gold, houses are actually the same or even cheaper than they've been historically. It's because our dollars are debasing so quickly that we think house prices are actually going up. They're one of the few things that's actually keeping up with real world inflation. So what we're talking about here is not the shock of how much houses are going to be worth in 25 years. It's the shock of how little our money is going to be worth in 25 years.
Yeah. I just think at this point, I was trying to say this yesterday. I don't have the right way of saying it, but we were talking about Zhoran Mamdani.
Yes.
And someone sent me a video, and it was like a very pro-socialist video that's gone mega viral on social media. And they're like, "Oh, Carly, have you seen this? What do you think about this? What do we do?" And I said, "Let him have it. Honestly, let him have it." At this point, like that is the answer. There is no turning this ship around until people get a taste for it. And I think when it comes to the housing crisis, green energy, energy prices going through the roof, housing prices going through the roof, let them have a taste. Like, honestly, that's what like, I don't know what else you can do if you haven't woken up by this point.
Yeah.
You know?
So I was preparing to show you the electoral results as they come in, because the count should start in about a half an hour's time. I was hoping that they would actually start counting before the polls had closed. But unfortunately, it seems like they're not going to do any count at all until the polls close in 31 minutes from now. Obviously, by the time this is playing tonight, then the polls will have closed and there will be some results coming in. So at the moment, it's just a whole bunch of 0, 0, 0s. But there is a real concern here. Just to touch on something that we touched on Monday, you'll notice there's three candidates there. Zhoran Mamdani, the hardcore socialist, the Marxist. Andrew Cuomo, extremely corrupt, horrible human being, but has been the governor there before. And there's Curtis Sliwa, who is the conservative, essentially, the Republican. Now, what's really concerning about the situation here is that Andrew Cuomo, the former Democratic mayor who didn't get the nomination this time around, and Curtis Sliwa, the Republican nominee, are going to divide the majority of the vote between them. And Zhoran Mamdani is going to win on a minority vote. He might get 40%, he might get 45%. I don't know. We'll find out as the numbers come in. But he will win on that basis because they don't have a preferential system. And this is why I defend our system as vocally as I do. It fixes this problem because people voting for Cuomo number one could put Sliwa number two, and people voting for Sliwa number one could put Cuomo number two. And if Sliwa gets knocked out, which that's the expectation, he's going to get the least, then everyone that voted for him and then preferenced Cuomo as their number two option, their vote will move to Cuomo, and Cuomo will end up with a two-party preferred, which will be 55% or whatever that may be. And you would end up with a Cuomo as mayor, which would be more reflective of the will of more people. As it is, they're likely, I mean, look, who knows? But the pre-election polling was suggesting, Zhoran Mamdani is going to win on 40 to 45%.
Which is terrifying. I do have to correct you because you correct me all the time. You keep saying Cuomo. It's just Cuomo, not Cuomo.
Whatever.
It's very annoying. You said it like 7 times. I'm like,
that's my answer. Whatever.
Andrew Cuomo, as you said, corrupt, terrible, despicable human being. He was governor during COVID. Now he's trying to be mayor. Oh God, like talk about rock and a hard place. But interestingly, about this whole American thing, I know I mentioned this on Monday. I watch a lot of American politics. That's where I get most of my news from. And I just mentioned that clip where you had like a TikToker who was dressed as a Democrat walking around asking people about the policies and showing them actual Mamdani's website. And they're like, oh, I don't believe you. Like, that's not what he really believes.
Yeah.
These people like, and like, you know, they're literally, it's on the website. We were looking at it last night ourselves.
Yeah.
At this point, this is the only way they learn. Let them have a taste. So the crazy thing about New York, right? I can't remember the exact stats, so I'm probably going to butcher this, but like, I think it's like 1% worth almost 50% of the entire wealth of New York, right? You think about it, it's some of the most expensive real estate in the world. Some of the most, the richest people in the world have, you know, real estate there, or they run their businesses there. They have the means to leave. And I dare say most of their money is like all done through offshore accounts anyway.
Yeah.
So when you talk about rent freezing and government-run grocery stores and things like that, that doesn't impact these people whatsoever. These people have helipads on their buildings. They can leave, they can escape, they can get away. And what they're going to do is they're all going to run away to Florida or Texas or places like that where the taxes are better, and they're not going to be impacted by this. And what you're going to have is all these young people who thought that voting for Mamdani because it's socialism and socialism is so amazing, he's going to run out of money because he's not going to be siphoning the cash off all the rich people. Then they're way too smart for this stuff. So we saw a clip yesterday. It was these boomers that were being interviewed, and they're like, oh, you know, we believe that everyone should have equality and there shouldn't be any rich people. And these people were evidently New York rich, not just rich, like New York rich. And exactly that. These people will get a taste of it. Oh, all of a sudden your property's devalued because now the rent has got a ceiling on it, and so you can't. What do they call it? Like rent freezing, and
rent controls.
Rent control. And so all of a sudden your assets depreciate very quickly, so your net worth is going to deteriorate. And these people are going to go, oh, no, not my net worth. No. I didn't mean mine. I mean, like, you shouldn't be poor, but like I'm different.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot like when they started busing migrants into Martha's Vineyard. All of a sudden it was on their doorstep and then they cared. Now this is...
Oh, no, I couldn't take you in my house.
That's right, not mine. Everyone else should take you into theirs. This is quite funny to me. The Texas governor warns any New Yorkers trying to flee south after Mamdani's win will be slapped with a 100% tariff. Well, this is ridiculous. It's completely unworkable. 100% of what? What's the tariff on? You know, if they try and move their bank, like what are you taxing? It's not like there's a certain value of goods that's arriving at the border. It's a completely ridiculous thing to even say, and it completely flies in the face of my libertarian principles. So I'm not in favor of it at all. But it is very interesting to see that this kind of rhetoric plays very well down in the South. Obviously, he wants to get reelected as the Texas governor in the future. He's saying these things because he knows it's going to play well to Texans. So New York is trying to get out of the consequences of Mamdani being elected, if that's what happens, are going to find themselves probably not well liked in the places that they flee to.
Oh, 100%. And I just thought I'd bring this up quickly. This is a screenshot. Where is it? This is a communist Poland food rationing from 1981. So for those who might not be able to read it, it says, so
Let's put it on
1
the
month
first.
Oh, shit. Sorry. I'm looking at it. So you got it? Okay. So I can barely see it myself. Hang on. So this is a monthly ration. Sorry?
Yep. I was just going to read it out, but yeah, if you can see it, you read it.
So in a month, she gets 12 packs of cigarettes, because that's important, washing powder, 300 grams, soap, 2 bars, half a liter of vodka, 500 grams of butter. My God, that wouldn't last us a week. Cooking oil, 1 pack, sweets, 250 grams, rice, 1 kilo and 300 grams, meat, 2.5 kilos, sugar, 2 kilos, and flour, 1 1/3 kilos. That is not enough food for a month. Not even close. Yeah. That is terrifying to me. Reading that now, like, I know this, I mean, we make bread every week. Obviously, we go through, I think, 15 kilos of flour a month, because obviously I'm baking 2-3 loaves of bread. We don't eat all that. I give it some to Topher or whoever's coming over. Butter. Easily we eat 500 grams of butter a week, no dramas. Soap, that's pretty standard. Half a liter of vodka. I don't drink, but I assume that's not a lot. 2.5 kilos of meat. That's nothing. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, this is terrifying. Now, obviously, they may have grown their own potatoes, or maybe they might have had their own cow or whatever, but
yeah,
that's what's coming to New York, guys, because this is the other thing that people don't realize. I know you've talked about government-run grocery stores before. When you de-incentivize the businesses, they'll leave. They'll just go. They'll be like, there's no point us being in New York because you have the government-run grocery stores now. It makes it financially unviable. So they close, and then you only have the government ones. And then what happens is you create a black market. So things become more and more expensive. And then all of a sudden there's scarcity. So you think that having a government-run grocery store, like, everything the government runs turns to shit. So they don't have the supply chain. They don't have the resources. They don't have the staff. Carlz and Woolies, they have the supply chain. That's why they're monopolies. Obviously, in the US, they have different supermarket chains. We are going to end up to a point where people in New York will literally be starving, not because there's not food, but because there's no reason to import it into New York, because no one can make money off it. So they'll go elsewhere.
Yeah. So this is yes, I'm bringing up Venezuela again. This is from 2000. This is from 2017. The Maduro diet. So this is only 2 years after I was in Venezuela. Okay. So when I talk about being in Venezuela and seeing the bread lines and the food shortages and all of that shit that I talk about, and people are like, oh yeah, whatever. This is the result. This is the consequence. 2 years later, we were there in April 2015. 2 years later, shortages and a crumbling economy have forced Venezuelans to change their eating habits. Many are losing weight and battling malnutrition. Well, I saw malnutrition 2 years earlier. In 2015, it was already there. So this is basically 75% of the population has lost weight, an average of 8.7 kilograms per person. Now, I looked into that 8.7 kilograms. That's the average across the entire population, including the 25% of people who hadn't lost weight. So the actual amount of weight lost amongst the people that had lost weight is more like 10, 11, 12 kilograms. And this is not a country that had an obesity epidemic the way that the US did to begin with. They didn't have 12 kilograms to lose the way that, for example, I do. And the reality of this, when you see it in person, the reality of this, and when you understand this was all done in the name of the government helping. This was Chavez coming in and saying, we are going to help you, right? This guy's just scraping up grain off the side of the road there that's fallen out of a truck. People literally dumpster diving, going through rubbish tips, just trying to find any old way to survive. The only other place in the world where I have seen that level of poverty at work was on the outskirts of Port Moresby, where I went to places where they were literally living on rubbish tips and making homes out of corrugated iron on rubbish tips. People cannot afford to eat. They cannot afford medicine. They cannot afford beds. They cannot afford the most basic stuff. This is what happens when you allow socialists to take over. And I'm going to say it again, and people can laugh all you want. This is what is coming our way if Albo gets his way. And again, this is not, I don't believe he's doing this on purpose. People say, oh, it's all intentional. Well, it's intentional in the sense that he's intentionally pursuing his ideology, but he believes that his ideology is right and it's going to make the world a better and a fairer place. But this is where it leads. I've talked about the process, the progression by which this happens, the collapse of the country's economy through the excess welfare system, leading to shortages, leading to price controls and quotas, leading to nationalization of industries. That's where we are, by the way. Our entire energy grid is now nationalized, not with ownership, but with complete control. And we see that now with this new program, 3 hours of free energy every day. This is the shit that led Venezuela down the pathway to the point that people were living like they were in Africa. This is, you see those ads with Ethiopian kids with the pot bellies caused by malnutrition. That's what Venezuelan kids looked like 2 years before this article, before these photos were taken. And I saw that with my own eyes. And this is why I talk about Venezuela all the time. There is nothing magical about us that means that we're not going to suffer the same fate if we make the same stupid mistakes.
We already are making the mistakes. I mean, I've talked about Cuba. We've shared those videos before, but like with Cuba now, excuse me, they have such a scarcity of food. They eat once a day if they're lucky. Yeah. And it's not actual food. You're talking about like maybe some spaghetti noodles with some tomato sauce. Like it's not food like we think of it. It's literally like whatever you can get. Their buildings are collapsing. Yeah. No, you're lucky if you get meat. And people think we're being hyperbolic, or they think we're giving, worst case scenarios. This is very real. I was in Cuba in 2018. I saw it with my own eyes. They do a really good job of trying to hide it from the tourists and trying to hide it from people. But I mean, I've showed you those videos where these people are, they've got gangrenous wounds on their body because they can't get access to just simple medication like penicillin. They're on rations. There's shortages. And then even if they do get food, it's like crazy high prices. There's limited selections. This is what socialism does, because in its pursuit of equality or equity, as they like to say, they're basically saying that because there's people who have and there's people that have nots, no one can have until all the have nots have something. And what happens is you don't elevate people up out of poverty through socialism. You decline everyone's life so that we're all at the same level. The same thing has happened in China when Mao took over. There was how many people died under Mao? Was it 50 million? People were eating the birds.
It was at least 20 million. There's debate about what the exact number was, but it was at least 20 million.
I don't know about you, but anything over 1 million seems like a big number to me. 1 million people, 2 million people, 3 million people, 50 million people. Seems like a lot of people to be dying unnecessarily in my book. I could be wrong. We saw the same thing with the Soviet Union, but that's just the starvation. Like, that's not accounting for the political warfare and people being murdered for their ideals, or like, this is the thing. When people hear us talking about Cuba, Venezuela, Mao, Stalin, they're like, this is so far removed from their psyche. We just had a political assassination. Someone was just murdered in cold blood and people celebrated it. We're here. Yeah. We've been here for a while, but people still refusing to think that we can go down this road. We are here. We have protests every other week talking about Palestine and how we need, a treaty with the Aboriginal people, and white people are bad. We are here. It's right now. This is how it happens. We don't need to wait till you and I are literally in the breadline waiting for our rations of rice. We're already seeing it. And this is what's so frustrating to me.
So people talk about how billionaires are the problem. And if we just made the billionaires pay their fair share, then all of our problems would be solved. So I want you to have a look at the number in the top left corner, US national debt, $38 trillion with a T. If you confiscated the entire wealth of every billionaire, which means all their shares and everything, it's not like they're sitting on silos of money. We've talked about that before. It's tied up in shares and businesses and valuations and all that kind of stuff. If you confiscated the entire wealth of every single American billionaire, it adds up to less than $2 trillion. Okay. So that number in the top left would go from 38 trillion to 36 trillion. And then it would keep growing. And you have a look at the number. It's about to tick over another million there. It's going another 100,000. Another 100,000. Another 100,000. Okay. You do not fix this by confiscating wealth off the people that create wealth. You fix this by stopping the waste and the spending that is causing that number to be climbing so quickly. There is no way out of this that doesn't involve massive reductions in government spending. And until people get that through their head and start voting for politicians that are going to do cuts, then we're screwed.
Yeah. I honestly think, like, I hate saying this. I think Australia is going to get a lot worse. I hope we learn before we are Venezuela, but it has to get worse because no one's getting the messaging. If you're not getting it now, and I know I'm sort of jumping across points, but it all ties into the same thing. If you can't get outraged at Clementine Ford saying we need more violence after someone gets politically assassinated, if you're not thinking, shit, we've gone too far here, if you can't think that the government is literally going to spend more money when they're broke, when they're trying to build the suburban rail loop, but they can't fill the potholes. If you're not starting to clock this and go, shit, we're in big trouble, I can't help you. I don't know what else will wake you up. If you can't think that we don't have a crime crisis when a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old are murdered in cold blood by another teenager wielding machete, and the solution the government proposes is machete amnesty bins, if you're not clocking it, man, I can't help you. I can't help you.
Okay. So the only point where I disagree with you, though, is what I see around me in a lot of different ways is clear evidence that people are clocking it rapidly. There is a change that is happening really, really rapidly. I was just talking to someone earlier today who's a relative of theirs suffered heart conditions after COVID, and their own, that person's wife was hardcore down all the lockdowns and everything else, get the jabs, all that sort of stuff, and their wife has now started to say, I think this was the jab. I think this was the COVID jab that did this to my husband. People are beginning I've talked before about that thing of breaking the muscle or breaking the oyster off the pier, right? Getting them to leave their existing position. That's the hardest part about getting people to change their minds, is not getting them to where you want them to be. It's getting them to realize that where they are is the wrong spot. And increasingly, I'm seeing evidence all around me that Australians are realizing something's wrong here. We're in the wrong spot. There's something wrong about what I believe, or about who I've trusted, or about the way that we've done things up to this point in time.
Yeah.
The task for people like you and me is to then say, you're absolutely right. Welcome. And then to be able to bring those people across to a constructive solution, because unfortunately some of them are going to say the system is broken, it's a failure of capitalism, we need Marxism, right? Some people are going to go in that direction. And it's people like you and I and many other good people that need to be in the public square saying, hey guys, there is a better way, there is a better vision, and a better way that we can actually restore our prosperity. So I agree that we're in a critical moment. I agree that things could go the wrong way, but I'm actually optimistic that we are watching people wake up in sufficient numbers that Australia could yet save itself.
I think, look, we are, and I've got to be mindful that X is not always real life. It is an echo chamber, depending what your algorithm looks like. And that's why I always bring up the comments, right? Like that, I've showed you 100 times throughout the podcast, different comment threads, like, look, things are shifting. Is it shifting enough that people vote differently? I don't know. I know we have the Victorian election next year. I don't think Victoria's there yet. I hate saying that. I really do hate saying that. I want to think opposite. The reason this matters is I'm going to bring you up a different story. So I briefly touched on this on Monday, but it's worth talking about this. God, there's like 400 tabs. Okay. So I talked about the gaslighting from the Victorian government. This is how I know that things are, there's trouble afoot with Jacinta Allen, right?
We've just had a big dropout.
Am I frozen?
Sorry,
right?
Can you say that again? Can you say that again, please?
I can see that now Jacinta Allen and her private cabinet are starting to panic.
Right.
Am I frozen? Am I right? I'm good?
No, you're not frozen. Yep.
All right. So this is Tim Richardson. He is the MP for the Morty Alec area, so Bayside. So classic Champagne socialist area. So those who don't know, Morty Alec is right near the beach. It's at the bottom end of Bayside. So again, affluent area. It hasn't always been affluent. Morty Alec has been a bit of both, but he and Steve Dimopoulos, I think it was, that I shared the other day, the Oakley MP, are running these campaigns talking Melbourne up. They are talking up the Melbourne that we lived in 20, 30 years ago. Sporting capital, cultural capital, come to Melbourne. That's where everyone in Australia wants to be. Yes, you're right. 25 years ago, we did. But the reality is very different. So he's look at this smug face. Don't you just want to like, it looks like he has been punched in the face a couple of times. His nose is a bit flat. Anyway, so he has been talking up this big campaign about how Melbourne is, the sporting capital. All these people are coming out. And like I said, these people can't hide anymore. There's too many people who are like, no, this is bullshit. You are lying. This isn't true. And so he ran a bunch of tweets. Like, so Jackie Felgate, who, by the way, I have been very harsh on Jackie. She is definitely coming across. I find it very difficult, but like you said, we've got to embrace these people. Thank you for coming, Jackie. I'm annoyed that it took you so long during COVID, but thank you for joining. The shackles are off her, so to speak. But she called out Tim Richardson for gaslighting, right? And saying she's shedding the light on a horrific assault that happened in Bendigo last night. And rather than responding that, Tim Richardson runs this. So a 3AW presenter calls Melbourne a rat's nest over the weekend. We suggest that Melbourne and its people are awesome and stop talking down our city. Love heart. 6 hours earlier, 3AW's Tim Elliott says Melbourne does this thing better than anywhere else. Goodness me. Basically saying that two things can't be true at once. You can't possibly have people enjoying an Oasis concert, because that's what Tim Elliott was referring to. They had a massive concert at our big stadium, and it's Oasis, right? People were happy, people running around. That's not you. Your politicians didn't do that. Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher did that. That's got nothing to do with the Labor Party. You know what I mean? They were singing around, but there was an incident where a flare was let off in the crowd, but whatever. But this Tim Richardson dude, he's like, nothing's wrong with Melbourne. Everything's great.
Nothing to see here.
People aren't following this shit anymore. So I just find it really interesting. This tells me that the Labor government's panicking, right? Like, I've seen a whole host of them, whether it's Jacinta Allen, this Tim dude, this Steve guy. These people know, like, things aren't looking good.
Yeah. And what's been really heartening for me is to see the Herald Sun in particular, but also, 7 News you've mentioned before. They're no longer afraid to take this government to task. Now, again, I would have liked to have seen some of that during COVID. That would have been nice. But again, they're coming around now. They're not afraid anymore to be really calling it out. I can't help but notice that the brothel worker that used pepper spray still hasn't been charged. You remember that? I talked about that at the time. This is going to tie the Jacinta Allen government up in knots, because they need her to be charged. Otherwise, well, there's kind of a precedent there now that says, well, actually, if you use pepper spray in legitimate self-defense, well, maybe the police won't charge you anymore. But if they had charged her, well, now they're targeting a woman for having defended herself against a man, and she's a sex worker, or at least works at a brothel. The optics would have been terrible. So they wouldn't have known which way they wanted that to go. As things stand at the moment, she hasn't been charged as far as I'm aware. And I don't expect that to change. I think if it's gone this long with no charges being laid, the police have made a determination that it's not in the public interest. They're not going to do it. And that opens a Pandora's box, as many, many Victorians are looking around going, well, I need something to defend myself, to defend my home. So even the police aren't actually kowtowing to the government. The media are no longer kowtowing to the government. The tragedy is that the Liberal Party, which is realistically the only other party that could win in Victoria, none of the other parties are ready for prime time down there or even close to it, they're a mess. They're an absolute, now they're less of a mess than they were. They have improved from their absolute lows previously. And I think, did I see something about Moira Deeming has been given a portfolio? I'm going to Google that. Give me a sec. But they need to get their act together, and they need to get their act together fast. The winds are blowing in their direction. They can do this, but they actually have to, they have to actually get on the front foot. And I haven't seen evidence yet of them doing that.
Moira Deeming, this is jumping away from where we were, but she did an amazing thing yesterday. So I think that Tim Richardson guy, literally the one I just talked about, he has now been sorry, I'm going to share this with you quickly. So I'm hijacking you because I think this is really worth sharing, because exactly like you said, there's momentum here, and they need to run with this. So I'll add this to the stream. So Tim Richardson, the guy I was literally just talking about, he has been made the Parliamentary Secretary for Men's Behaviour Change, if you can believe there is such a thing. This is where we are working to lower gendered violence in our communities. I'm just going to read his original tweet. Feel free to share all of our content in my role as Parliamentary Secretary for Men's Behavioural Change. This is where we are working to lower gendered violence in our communities. When 95% of violence is perpetrated by men and boys, we have to ask why and how we can change this. And so, bless her, and I'm going to read Moira Deeming's response. Sorry. Moira Deeming says, rest assured, as a grown woman, I already felt free to share your embarrassing content without your paternalistic invite. And instead of taking action to change bad men's behavior, your government simply gave them legal cover to do it under trans ID laws. Here's a quick recap. Your Labor government has made laws forcing teenage girls to put up with male trans teachers supervising their change rooms, female inmates to live with male trans rapist pedos in prison, female rape victims who beg for a female officer to do their rape kits to let a man who says he's a woman to do it, thus raping her again, and females to compete in sports against males who say they're female and, of course, they lose, quit, get terribly injured, or all three. What a disgrace. Yep. Moira, hands are like hats off. Well done. Brilliant.
Moira is the boss. She is a future premier. Now, it's important not to rush. She needs another term or two before she's ready for that role, and she needs to work her way up there through the stages. But that is exactly what's happening. So this is what I was looking for before. Victorian Coalition locks in shadow assistant ministry lineup with John Pesutto snubbed. So former leader of the Liberal Party did not get a role in the shadow ministry or even as a shadow assistant minister. However, Moira Deeming did. Moira Deeming was unveiled as the shadow assistant minister for local government. Now, that's a relatively minor role, right? That's not some massive thing, but there is a necessary progression that does need to happen. You become a shadow assistant minister, and then you become a minister. You know, in the following term of government, she might become a minister, and then another term of government as, you know, moving around to a few different ministry portfolios, and then she might be ready for the leadership. But consider that only a year ago, she was persona non grata, right? Only a year ago.
Can you close that ad at the bottom there? I just want to see like John Pesutto. Is it? Yeah. And just, yeah. So can we just mention and remember again that the Liberal Party, in an opportunity to show that they value women and that they champion women, did everything they could to silence a woman, discredit a woman, and then bailed out the guy who bullied her and ousted her from her own party for doing nothing.
Defamed her.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's still in the party and they bailed him out, I will never get over it.
Yeah. So that was Moira Deeming's Pauline Hanson moment, right? So Pauline Hanson, when she first came into Parliament, they tried to destroy her. They threw her in prison. She came back even stronger and became not an unstoppable force. It's not like she's taken over, but they have not been able to get rid of her since then, right? And she's only grown. And in fact, they're at 15%. Yeah, and One Nation are now at 15%. And so much of what Pauline Hanson has been saying all the way through is now being agreed with by a rapidly rising number of Australians. And so this is a real problem even for the Nationals as they're abandoning net zero finally, belatedly, and even for the Liberals, if they abandon net zero, which I think they will. The problem for them is that it's not really that credible because they were the architects. They were pushing it for a long time. One Nation is credible under Pauline Hanson because she's been saying consistently the same thing the whole way through. The Liberal Party of Victoria have now given Moira Deeming the Pauline Hanson treatment, and Moira survived, and now she is unstoppable. She will rise through their ranks. I do think she will end up in senior ministry positions if she continues in politics for another 2 or 3 terms. And I do think that if she decided that that's what she wanted to do, she is a future premier of Victoria. She needs to be given the time to develop the necessary skills and all of that. That's a given. But give her another 6 to 9 years as a politician representing her constituents in Victoria. I think she's a future premier.
I think so too. I think, you know, we've talked about this a million times. It sucks to be right early, but that's the only time that matters. And also there's a particular level of viciousness reserved for women in the public eye.
Yep.
And, you know, I know that firsthand. I'm sure Moira knows that firsthand. And isn't it interesting that, you know, not to put myself on the same podium as Moira, but the women, Pauline, Moira, myself, are others who have Sal Grover, J.K. Rowling to a degree.
Yeah.
You know, there's lots of Riley Gaines. women who have had to go through fire and suffer untold vitriol online, physical abuse. You know, I had a rape threat last week. Thanks, Roy. Has he come back? Has Roy come back?
I haven't seen him.
I haven't noticed him. Haven't seen him.
Yeah.
You know, not Roy in the Philippines, other Roy, Harley Roy.
No, other Roy. Yeah, to be clear.
Yeah. You think about what women like us have to go through to just say the truth, to just say common sense.
Yeah.
That tells me if you can do that, because it's hard, and I know this firsthand, it's very difficult. If you can still do it and come out with poise, grace, and your dignity, and not resort to like your Clem Ford, Abby Chatfield kind of like low slinging, derogatory ad hominem attacks, you are exactly what we should be revering in politics. You are the kind of material that we need to be in a leadership position. We don't see that on the left at all. We don't see that from Jacinta Allen. We don't see that from Harriet Shing. We don't see that from Penny Wong. We don't see that from the Mean Girls in the Labor Party. We certainly don't see that from Brittany Higgins. There is a level of integrity that is very difficult to reach without that baptism of fire. But the women who get through it, we need people to rally behind them. I really believe that.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the ultimate feminist move, by the way. If you want women to succeed, that's what you do.
Can we go to a little bit of international news? I'm just mindful that we're 2 hours and 20 minutes in. I'm just going to share a screen here again. All right. Tommy Robinson has won his court case. This is a really, really big deal. So let me give you a rundown if you're not familiar. Tommy Robinson, hopefully everyone knows who he is. He was basically the first person to publicly start speaking out against the Pakistani rape gangs, which we now know are a thing. He was right. He's been through hell. He's been into prison multiple times, found guilty of contempt of court and all kinds of spurious nonsense. This particular court case related to him. He was driving a friend's car from England to Europe. They have the tunnel that they can drive through. And he was stopped at the border and he was interrogated under anti-terror provisions. And the police officers basically profiled him and used their terror, the powers they're given under the UK anti-terror legislation to demand access to Tommy Robinson's phone. He refused. He refused to give them his PIN. Now, they detained him and he got prosecuted for failing to obey and blah, blah, blah. He defended himself in court, funded by Elon Musk, by the way, and he's given credit to Elon Musk for his defense. He said, look, without Elon Musk, I'd be in prison now because I couldn't have afforded to defend myself. The judge was scathing of the police. The judge flat out said the police had no good reason to stop him. They had no good reason to believe that he was in any way involved in terrorism, and no good reason to try and use terrorism powers against him, and that they profiled him on the basis of his politics, which is a protected characteristic under UK law. You're not allowed to do that. What's really significant to me is that a judge would stick their neck out on behalf of Tommy Robinson. It would have been so much easier for that judge to go, oh, it's Tommy Robinson. I'd better give the government what I know they want against this guy who's been a thorn in their side for so long. Not only did the judge not do that, the judge absolutely attacked the police. And I think that's yet another indicator that times they are changing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a massive groundswell of nationalism in England. And actually, I wasn't going to bring this up, but oh my God, here we are. You probably saw this story. I have to pull. We need a Jamie, man. We do. Yeah. Okay, so
mind you, our Jamie would have to be a mind reader because we don't know in advance where we're going. So our Jamie needs to be like a psychic to be able to have all the stuff ready for us when we're like, oh, hey, let's go down this tangent.
And be able to type like this. Okay, so this is a story. I'm sharing the BBC, so you can say I'm not biased and only sharing the right-wing talking points. But basically, Whitechapel, one of the most working-class areas of London, has now replaced all of its English signs with this. Now, this article is from 2022, and you can see there's a massive Bangladeshi community in East London. But now we're getting to the point where most of the signs are now no longer in English.
That is not useful.
It's not useful, but this bothers me. So like I said, this is a 2-year-old article. This is from 2022. But there's a lot of this happening now, and rightfully so. A lot of Britons are starting to get outraged about it. Whitechapel, isn't that one of the little Monopoly squares? Whitechapel Road?
Goodness, I couldn't even tell you. It's been so long since I played. Been so long.
I'm
But
pretty
oops.
But
Yeah. Sorry.
so this is interesting because it's England. Their native tongue is English, yet signs are now being replaced with Bangladesh. What do you call it? I don't know what their language is, but and rightfully so. The British are starting to get really pissed off, as you should. There is nothing wrong with people migrating over, but if you're in England, we speak English. You know,
assimilate.
and it's assimilate.
You
100%.
come to England to become English.
100%. And, you know, we're seeing a lot of this now. I'm conscious of seeing a lot of this stuff being ramped up on X. A lot of people are talking about Islam here in Australia and how, and a lot of people are sharing, old articles. I saw a couple of articles today talking about one of the Muslim Brotherhood backers speaking about how Australian women need to be inseminated by Muslim men and we need to eradicate the white race. Now, the reason I bring this up is this has been bubbling away for decades. This is not new. Yeah. It's only now getting to a point where people start to feel like they can speak up. So I feel like that ceiling around racial, people being really delicate around race has broken, and not in a good way. This can go one or two ways. This is the race riots, which I've been warning about for 6 months, or people who are white start to grow a backbone and go, hey, man, I have no issue with you, but you're not going to tell me what I can do in my country, and we speak my language here. So nationalism is rising. I mean, we've just seen like Japan's elected a very ethno-nationalist conservative leader. You've got someone like Trump who's deporting all the illegals. But unfortunately, you've got Macron and you've got the EU and you've got Albo and bloody Canary, what's his name? Carney in Canada, who are still very much on the open borders bus. So
their time is coming, though. The French situation is very, very interesting. Macron's hold on power is by no means assured, and we're watching the rise of Marine Le Pen. They've tried to take her out. I mean, talk about a Pauline Hanson type of experience. They've done exactly the same thing to her, and yet she's survived. And so she's yet another example of someone who's been through that baptism of fire and is rising really quickly. But people are running out of patience for the games that have been played. And I want to switch to another piece of international news and the games that have been played. The Epstein list is without question an area where games have been played. We saw when Joe Biden was president, the Republicans were saying we need the list. And then, the Democrats are saying, no. Then once Trump was in, he said he was going to release the list, and then he completely botched it on purpose or not. We've talked about that before. Who knows? But the Democrats then started saying, oh, well, why won't he release the list? It's like, well, you could have released the list while you had control of every house of parliament and the presidency. So now Marjorie Taylor Greene is a longtime Trump ally. I actually met her when I was at Mar-a-Lago early last year. She'd just released a new book, and she was there at the event. And she has become really disenfranchised with a lot of what's been going on, particularly around the Epstein stuff. Now, what she has come out and said point blank, and I hope she's got really good security. She has said, Marjorie Taylor Greene says that she will read the names of government officials who are in Epstein's list on the House floor. So she's in Congress. So, and like in Australia, what you say on the floor of Parliament during official proceedings is protected. You can't be sued for defamation. You can't be, you are protected from all legal repercussions. It is a place where you can say absolutely anything. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying she's going to use that protection to read out the names of government officials. So she's targeting, obviously, American government officials. I hope she's got really good security. I would love to see this happen. There is the caveat that we've talked about before, that there are going to be names in that list that actually didn't do anything wrong. And that might be the reason why there's been all this nonsense around release it, don't release it, releasing it, but not really releasing it, all this kind of nonsense that's gone on. And I'm mindful of that. But I like the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is not letting this go, and she's making the threat that she's making. And I hope that gets some movement on the Epstein front.
I agree. Another thing too, just on the whole cultural shift thing, I've seen a couple of X posts today. So firstly, there's two celebrities who have been particularly woke and particularly outspoken. One is Jennifer Lawrence, you might know her from the Hunger Games, and the other was Rachel Zegler, who was the Snow White in that absolutely catastrophic Disney dumpster fire of a movie, Snow White. And Rachel Zegler, they're both going different directions. Now, Jennifer Lawrence is an insufferable celebrity. I quite like her as an actress, and I quite like the Hunger Games, but I think what happens with a lot of these Hollywood types is they become incredibly insular, like I said, live in echo chambers, and then they really feel like they're doing something for the people, but they're so far removed and they don't realize what they're talking about. So she came out a little while ago basically saying she was the first action hero ever as a woman, and Sigourney Weaver in Alien was just like,
yeah.
Anyway, long story. And then, so she's just come out, and you can read this tweet here. So she's come out in an interview saying that she'll no longer speak out against Trump because no one cares what celebrities have to say anymore. As we've learned, celebrities not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. So then why am I doing it? Now, she's not doing that because of that. She's realized it's actually dangerous to her career. Now, everything that these celebrities do, all they care about is themselves, their paychecks, and making sure that they are on the next train. And you guys can see the rats are jumping off the ship. They're jumping on the next train out of here. And that train is to become apolitical, back in your lane and do your thing. Now, the other contrast is to Rachel Zegler, who's just come out saying that, you know, it should be an honorable thing that celebrities talk about things because they're representative of the people and all this sort of stuff. So she's doubling down. Which one's going to have a career at the end of this?
Yeah. No, it's really interesting the way the world. Sorry, you go.
No, go.
I was just going to say the way the world is going. We've taken it for granted that the arts are going to be left, and we've taken it for granted that they're going to wear that with pride. They're going to shove it down our throats. They're going to be vocal about it. That wasn't always the case. There was an era, in the golden era of Hollywood, they really did kind of keep all that stuff to themselves. They were just trying to be entertainers and celebrities and you know, obviously cash in on that fame that came with that. The more modern approach, and it has been about 40 years, the more modern approach of celebrities using their celebrity status to try and influence and change everybody else's minds and change how they vote has run concurrently with companies doing the same thing. This whole idea that companies have to be responsible corporate citizens and they have to have all this, but they're no longer just focused on delivering the best possible product at the best possible price. They're now going to be about all these other things. That's being stripped away as well. We're watching companies, they're abandoning all the rainbow stuff during Pride Month. They're backing off on a lot of the ESG and the DEI stuff. We're watching lawsuits in the US, not many, but there are enough lawsuits that it's changing the culture against directors that have actually harmed shareholder value by pursuing things other than the best interests of the company. Fiduciary duty, for those that want to look it up. There are lawsuits on this. We're watching the entire culture is being sort of reined back in and being told, hey, listen, stay in your lane. If you're the director of a company, do what's best for the company and stay out of everything else. If you're an actor, be a good actor and stay out of everything else. And that is the next, that is the wave that's happening now. Jennifer Lawrence is reading the tea leaves and she's seeing where that's going in the same way that Volvo did. Volvo were one of the first ones to ride that wave of being progressive and being out there with their politics and all that stuff. They were one of the first major companies globally to start sponsoring gay pride parades and so forth. Now, their most recent pivot has been back to family values. Not because they've changed their mind, not because they really support families, or you would have to question whether they even really supported the gay agenda, right? It's actually a matter of they were just reading the tea leaves of where the money was going to be in the future. And they were right in the 70s to jump on that train. That served them quite well. But they're also right now to be getting off that train.
And so I wanted to also bring up the Nicki Minaj thing. And she's come out basically in full support of Trump. So I'm going to share this back up here. This is, I noticed that you've changed my name here.
No, I was going to comment that AI is obviously getting really advanced now. I handed over our naming to AI. And it just recognized that PhD candidate or not, the term insufferable still applies.
Right. Whatever. Two can play this game. You've just started a war. You really want me to change your name? Anyway, so I spoke about this really briefly before. So this tweet's worth reading out. So on the left is Maureen Edgar Boodle, the Episcopal Church bishop who publicly lectured Trump about trans kids and protecting illegal aliens. On the right is rapper Nicki Minaj. Guess who's speaking out about the global persecution of Christians?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring you up what she said. So I'll remove that. I think this is interesting because people will look at Nicki Minaj and, you know, she's got some songs that might be like they're a bit crude, a bit whatever. I don't mind Nicki. She's got some bangers out there. But isn't it interesting that the heroes that emerge? So this is what Nicki tweeted that I was referring to before. Obviously, we know about the situation in Nigeria, and Trump has made a post basically saying that, you know, telling Nigeria to get in line. But what happened was Nikki shared this and she said, reading this made me feel a deep sense of gratitude. We live in a country where we can freely worship God. No group should ever be persecuted for practicing their religion. We don't have to share the same beliefs in order for us to respect each other. Numerous countries all around the world are being affected by this horror, and it's dangerous to pretend we don't notice. Thank you to the president and his team for taking this seriously. God bless every persecuted Christian. Remember to lift them up in prayer. And interestingly, so many people on the left have been like, obviously they're doing the same thing. Cancel Nikki. She's terrible. But isn't it interesting how we've got someone like that now speaking up for the good? And if I go to her replies, sorry.
I like what Stephen Crowder had to say. The Pope has been silent, and Nicki Minaj, if you just go back one step, go up, the Pope has gone silent. So Christendom's now under the stewardship of Nicki Minaj. Godspeed. Like, yeah.
And this is what I'm saying. Like Nicki Minaj, for those who don't know who she is, she's one of the most well-respected female rappers out there. I think she's the highest selling, and like in the 2010s, she had some songs like Truffle Butter, and I don't need to tell you what that is. Surely you know what that is.
I don't.
And by the way, I love that song. But Anaconda and things like that. So
if you start quoting Nicki Minaj lyrics, then having Merkins in your ads is going to be the least of your worries. Okay, the stuff that's going to come up in your ads is no, just don't do it. Don't do it.
There's some rap songs that I can rap because I've made a point of learning them, and then when I sing the lyrics out loud, I'm like, what am I saying? Anyway, but yeah, so Nicki Minaj, she's very well respected. She's a very wealthy woman. She's very celebrated career. The fact that she's now not only speaking up about obviously the Christians being slaughtered in Nigeria, she's also essentially putting herself behind Trump. That's how it will be interpreted. She is standing beside Trump. And I just find, the shifts are happening very quickly. Like I said, the rats are definitely fleeing the sinking ship, i.e. Jennifer Lawrence. Some will go down with the Titanic, i.e. Rachel Zegler. But you are definitely seeing a lot more people. And to be honest, I think a lot of these people would have been silent Republicans or silently conservative or silently not necessarily like pro-woke, but because the industry they were in, because of the stress around what they're doing, they were forced to comply. I hate that. I despise cowards, but hey, better late than never, right?
It is what it is. We can't change what they did previously, but having them come out on the right side now is a good thing. I find this really interesting. We're on kind of American news at the moment. So the E. Karen has announced that she won't be seeking a contract extension next year. So she's now only a year or so, actually less than a year away from no longer being the e-safety commissioner. So she's come in, she's started an absolute dumpster fire, presided over a department, the e-safety office, that has become completely dysfunctional and put us in a position where Australia is going to be in lawsuits very soon against the big social media companies, which the American government will be on the side of and they will defend. I've done a lot of videos about this. I'm not going to talk about that, the backstory there, but there is a lot of backstory. You can go back in my videos to see more about this. But this I read as absolute vindication that we are about to see some pretty serious lawsuits between America and Australia, and the e-safety commissioner is going to be responsible for them. So what's happened here is the e-safety commissioner, this article is about the Julie Inman Grant hitting back at Jim Jordan. Now, he's a Republican congressman. Now, he was also the chair of the U.S. House Judiciary Committee. Do you remember a little while ago, Julie Inman Grant was named in a House Judiciary Committee report into efforts to suppress free speech in the United States for her involvement with GARM. That was the advertising cartel that tried to use essentially anti-competitive behavior to punish companies and to punish social media platforms that sort of didn't toe the line during COVID, especially, was when all of that came up. So Jim Jordan and Julie Inman Grant have got beef, and that is now ticking along very, very nicely. So in October 22, a letter sent to Stanford University. So this all blew up because Julie Inman Grant attended a cyber policy center event at Stanford University. And Jim Jordan came out and said that basically that whole event is facilitating foreign censorship that harms American civil liberties. Now, that's a really important point, because the only way that the US government are going to get involved is if they can claim, rightly or wrongly, that it is harming American citizens. So that's a really important link in the chain. If I'm right and these lawsuits are going to happen, it's only going to happen if the US government views the actions of Julie Inman Grant as being harmful to the free speech rights of American citizens. And Jim Jordan has come out and explicitly said that that is exactly what's going on. Jim Jordan, quoting him directly, the keynote speaker at this event was Julie Inman Grant, the Australian E-Safety Commissioner, who has explicitly argued that governments have the authority to demand and enforce global takedowns of content, Mr. Jordan wrote. Right? He's going for a direct hit at this point. And in the context of us heading towards the under 16 social media ban, which is coming up on December 10th, and in the context of my expectation that the social media giants, the American companies, Meta and Alphabet and all those, they will take reasonable steps because that's what they're required to do. And the E-Safety Commissioner is going to say, no, that's not enough. You have not taken reasonable steps. And they're going to say, well, we think we have, and hence the lawsuits. I think we've just seen confirmation from Representative Jim Jordan that the US government is absolutely going to back up the American tech companies when those lawsuits happen. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. This one we definitely need to pay attention to. We haven't brought this one up yet, but you will appreciate this as a human rights advocate. Have you heard about this story?
Yeah, I heard about it. It kind of passed me by. I know that that Avi Yemeni went to a snap protest that happened outside of the business responsible for this. But take us through the story.
Yeah, so essentially this guy here, he runs a nursery with his twin brother in Albert Park, and an Israeli woman who's come over from Israel, she was seeking employment. And after he found out she was Israeli, he sent this message to her, and it says, unfortunately, the position has been filled by someone with a semblance of humanity and who cares for plants, animals, and the environment. Good luck on your journey, and I hope you leave Melbourne soon. Free Palestine and end genocide now. You're complicit in it, and in English, your name means. So that's the message that she screenshot and shared. So basically, this guy here is a lefty. He's a Palestine zealot, and he thought in his good conscience that it was a good thing to discriminate so openly and so easily to be proven to this Israeli woman. And obviously this has just opened up a can of worms. Like the Israel-Palestine thing aside, the fact that someone felt so comfortable to openly discriminate against a candidate in the employment in the employment space speaks to how comfortable these people are with breaking the rules when it suits their narrative and their purpose. So again, taking Palestine and Israel out, that's irrelevant in my view in this. This is that this person is so ideologically blind that they think the rules do not apply to them and they can openly discriminate. So that I thought this story actually deserves a lot more than it does, and people are getting tripped up by the Israel-Palestine thing. And as expected, the comments are divided. But this just shows how far we've gone. I talked before about political assassinations, about embracing socialism and people thinking things aren't bad enough. That's another example of how bad things are, how far gone things are, that we all know, like Australians know you cannot discriminate against potential candidates. We know that. Skin color, it's literally in the law. A skin color, race, religion, nationality, you cannot discriminate. Fair Work will have a field day with this guy. Yet, in spite of that, and all employers know this, by the way, all employers basically have the fear of God put into them by Fair Work. And not only did this guy feel like he could go up, he obviously didn't think, right? He's clearly emotionally blinded by this issue. He has spit in the face of human rights. And someone who, by the way, is advocating for human rights of the Palestinians will breach the human rights of this random Israeli woman and openly go against discrimination laws, human rights laws in Australia. Yeah. Guys, that's really bad. Really bad.
So this is where my libertarian idealism and the pragmatic reality of the world we live in do collide a little bit. I'm firmly a believer that any employer should be able to reject any employee for any reason they choose. They shouldn't be told what is or is not a basis for deciding who they employ. And I would suggest that an Israeli probably wouldn't want to work in that business because the way they would get treated would be obviously pretty poor. So I would say them not working or her not working in that business is probably going to work out well for both of them. So thank you, cranky old bastard. I'll take that. So I don't believe that anyone should be forced to employ anyone that they don't actually want to, and that the basis for them not wanting to should be completely open. It should be completely up to any individual. But the reality of the world we live in is that we are controlled in those ways, and we are punished if we step out of line of what the government says we're allowed to use as the criteria. And I've said before, lawfare is a key part of the solution here, to start using these laws that they thought were only for them. Clearly, this guy didn't think that anti-discrimination law was going to apply to him. He didn't think that he was going to get held accountable to the same standard. And to be fair, that's not an unreasonable thing to think when the courts have historically been so skewed, when the courts have themselves historically been so partisan and really, been very one-sided in how they've applied these sorts of laws. But as we saw with the Tommy Robinson case just earlier in this episode, that's changing, where the judiciary are having to recognize now, hang on, we actually have to start applying the laws a lot more evenly now. This guy, if he ends up being sued, and I hope he is, he's going to get taken to the cleaners, and he's going to end up having to make a payout, which he's going to hate. He's going to have to pay a bunch of money to this Israeli woman
I think this will cost their business. I think this will cost them their business. So I've actually got their reply here. So they put this up on Instagram, and it says that the Garden of Eden Nursery, that's the place, would like to express its regret and extend its sincere apologies to the community in regards to the recent messages sent to a member of the public by a staff member. Now, what this fails to recognize is that it wasn't a staff member, it was the owner, the co-owner. And what community? Are you apologizing to the Jewish community or the community at large? The message was sent via a personal account where we were unaware of until it became public. We are deeply upset and disappointed by the content of the message, which in no way reflects the values, standards, or spirit of our business or team. Yes, it does, because it's the co-owner. It's the co-owner. This is what frustrates me. We take this matter very seriously and are addressing it internally. Our commitment has always been to foster a welcoming, respectful, and inclusive environment for our customers, staff, and all communities. Thank you for everyone who reached out. We value the continued support and understand as we work for you to ensure this doesn't happen again. Bullshit apology. It was your co-owner. It's literally the person who is in charge of that business who wrote that message. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Okay, let me go into bat for them a little bit here. What else would you have them say besides we've fired that person? Right, which they can't do because he's one of the owners, right? So I think from a corporate,
I'll tell you what they should say. This was a terrible thing to do. This was an egregious misstep by our co-owner, and we are shocked by it. And this is going to cause us to have a very big discussion internally, and is going to impact not only our business, but our relationship to the community at large. As you guys can imagine, this is not going to be a short process. This is going to require some deep discussion, and we can't give you a resolution today nor next week. But please know that this has absolutely brought to our attention the need to have very, very serious discussions across the ownership of this business. And this being said, we'd like to give our unreserved apology to the Jewish community who would feel threatened by this, and understandably so. Unfortunately, I myself did not write that message, but one of our co-owners did, which does tell me that the Jewish community would rightfully feel very unwelcome coming into our nursery. We take this seriously, and we are going to do what we can to fix this and earn back your trust. That's how you issue an apology, not this bullshit, watery, like milk toast version. You take accountability. We fucked up. We said a horrible thing.
They certainly could have made a more direct apology to the Jewish community, but I think in corporate language they did in corporate language say a lot of that. But yeah, under the current
political response.
Yeah, but they are a company. They are a company though. Now I want to come back to New York because results have started coming in. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? And we might close the show on this, but this is interesting.
You haven't noticed my title upgrade, by the way.
Oh, yours. Hang on. Future Prime Minister of Australia. Yeah, I'll go with. I'd rather be a cranky old bastard than a future Prime Minister. I'll take that any day of the week. All right. So these are the 49? New York City mayoral results. Now, what matters is not whether he gets. So the percentage counted. So they've counted 1.3 million. So I believe that they've counted more than half. So this under here says they've counted 60% of the expected votes. So obviously, because voting is optional in the US, they don't know for sure how many people are on the roll or are going to vote. So 60% of the number of people that they are guessing will vote have been counted. And Zhoran Mamdani is cruising to victory. He's almost got an outright majority, which means that even had Curtis Sliwa not run and had all of his votes gone to Cuomo instead, it would still be a very, very close race. This is going to go down to the wire. There's obviously they've got it broken down. The Bronx has voted 51%, Brooklyn has voted 58%, Manhattan has voted 52%. Only Queens has not gone in significant majority to Zhoran Mamdani, and even then he's actually ahead of any of the other candidates. So I'm going to say that New York City, congratulations, you're going to wake up tomorrow to having a hardline Marxist mayor. Congratulations.
Well, this is a brilliant thing for the world. It really is. Of all the places for them to have a Marxist mayor, New York City makes sense. Interesting. All eyes on New York. Watch it descend to chaos. And this is the thing. They'll be like, oh, they said it would be terrible. It's not going to happen overnight. How long do they get to have a mayorship for? Is it 4 years?
I actually don't know. I haven't looked that up. Yeah, Staten Island, 55%. Oh, no, sorry. Excuse me. Staten Island, 55% for Cuomo.
Yeah. You know why?
That's
Staten Island's full of immigrants. Staten Island is full of immigrants. Yeah.
People who have experienced Marxism in their own personal lives and probably fled from it. Yeah. Well,
Manhattan,
congratulations.
Sorry, go down to Manhattan. Sorry. Queens is also Queens is full of African Americans and Latinas. Same with the Bronx, although the Bronx is a very big mix. I'd say there's a lot of Latinas in the Bronx. Staten Island, like I said, a lot of migrants. Sorry, show me Manhattan.
Just a sec. I want to show you the demographic breakdown here. Now, this is based on exit polling. So obviously they don't know who cast which vote in the actual election because it's anonymized for good reason. But based on exit polling, I'm actually surprised how even this support actually is, that there isn't a bigger demographic shift between male and female or between different racial groups. Obviously, Asians are kind of the outlier there. Sorry?
Is there age?
I don't have that here, so I don't know whether they record that in the exit poll. But yeah, that is a pretty commanding win for Zhoran Mamdani. And yeah, that's going to get really interesting. Which one did you want to see?
Oh, Manhattan. So Manhattan, 52%. Yeah. Okay, Champagne Socialists. Well, let them.
Well, they are the next cautionary tale. I've been saying for a long time that Venezuela are the cautionary tale of our generation, and maybe New York just joined them. Cautionary tale.
Well, New York's always been one of those cosmopolitan cities that, it goes through horrible swings and jumps. I mean, look what Rudy Giuliani had to clean up in the early 90s. In the 80s, New York was a terrible place to be. I don't pretend to know the full history of New York, but I do know that it has a very colored history. And I don't mean race. I mean as in colorful history. So, yeah, I mean, look, I actually think this is a good thing. And I say that because it gives us an example. The first thing he will do will be the grocery stores for sure, because he needs to do something that's obvious. So he will do some price. Yeah, he'll do something like that. He'll do some rent freezing, and you watch. Within 18 months, things will look very different, and crime will be through the roof, because he was very famous on the record as saying, "Is defund the police." So, okay.
Yeah. So this will be the big thing, is that organized crime will take over New York again. That's what the guy you mentioned a second ago, Rudy Giuliani had to clean up, was the crime and the
RICO.
Yeah, well, they were overrun by mafia-run extortion rackets in the 70s and 80s. The mafia ran the entire rubbish removal business. It's a great business if you're in the mafia, because if you're in the mafia and you've got a lot of drug money that you need to launder and make it look like you earned it through legitimate means, you need businesses where there's nothing to show for it in the end. And rubbish is perfect, because you can pick up 2 skip bins and say, oh, well, actually, we picked up 10 skip bins. Well, who's going to prove that you didn't actually pick up 10 skip bins 6 months ago when they're going through all your paperwork? No one can prove that. And so you can funnel all the profits that you've made from your drugs in through this business, claim that you made all this money through this business, and no one can tell you that you're wrong. So organized crime needs to front.
It's also a really good way to dispose of the bodies that kind of get in the way.
Well, There's that too. But this is why the mafia historically have been in the fruit and vegetable business, in the food business, in any business where there's nothing to show for it, where it's all being consumed. So that if you get audited 18 months later on last year's financial returns, well, who's going to tell you you're wrong? Who can prove that you didn't move that many heads of lettuce or sell that many tomatoes? No one can prove that. And you end up with these businesses that have no foot traffic. There's nothing actually going on in reality, but on the books, they're doing a roaring trade, and no one can prove that they're not.
Oh, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. But
ahead.
I don't pity them. You deserve it.
Yeah, in much the same way that I don't particularly pity Melbourne and Victoria. I'm like, sorry, guys, I screamed from the rooftops. I literally put my body on the line. I did all I could do. I risked going to prison for it. And you guys have your fun.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Melbourne. Every time I hear what's it, the ex-AFL chief, Gil, what's his name? Was it Gil McMahon or something?
Gillan McLaughlin. Yeah,
so he's now the boss of the TAB. He'd be on a cushy salary. He just got his home broken into and his car stolen.
Yeah, his car was stolen just before the Cup.
Melbourne Cup.
Yes.
Do you know what this reminds me of? You know that Oprah meme where she's like, you get a car, you get a car.
Yeah.
Now it's like, you get a stabbing, you get a stolen car, you get a home invasion. Everyone gets touched by crime. And interesting. So long story short, we'll finish on this. I had to download TikTok last week because I needed to grab some footage for my video for my master's. And I don't know how to find stuff well on Instagram because it's not as whereas you go to TikTok, the algorithm just literally serves you what you want.
Whatever you want.
And so I went in there and I typed in, beauty standards or whatever. And I'm scrolling. And within like 2-3 hours, I felt like I'd lost half of my brain cells, which, there's only 2 left. So that's a lot.
Yeah. That's a serious problem.
Funnily enough, I actually turned off TikTok last year because when I made that video about the crime that happened to us, as expected, right on cue, a whole bunch of people were like, oh, aren't you the grifter from COVID? Oh, this is a scam.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. It didn't happen. And so that video was still there. So all the hate comments were still there. And I was like, I read a couple and I deleted it. But like, oh, you deserve this. There's no real crime. This is just another grift for you. And I'm like, A year later, I wonder how many of these people who celebrated me having a home invasion have now experienced it themselves. And I'm like, well.
So some interesting news on TikTok. I don't have it installed on my phone, but it goes, my team in the Philippines schedule onto TikTok. There is a TikTok account. And so my stuff's been going out on there and I'm led to believe it was going quite well. I can't check because I don't have TikTok, but I've been, my platform is telling me that it's lost connection. And I believe that my TikTok account may have actually been deleted. I think it might be gone.
Oh, you said the wrong thing. Hang on, I'll go on TikTok now for you.
You can do it for me. Your phone can be compromised for me.
This app terrifies me. And I don't say that to be silly. Like it actually is like scary. I watched because I was looking at beauty standard stuff and I was just like, whoa, no, it's there. You have 306. Okay. It's an old one though, I think.
Does it have anything current on it?
It's got your marbles video.
Okay, so that's not the one that we've been posting to. Yeah. No. Okay. All right. Interesting. All right. Well, we'll have to try and get to the bottom of that. I think that the account that I've been posting to has been deep sixed.
Yeah, you've got one account with 367 followers and it's got one video on it. But having said that, there's lots of clips of you.
Yeah. People are sharing my stuff all over the place on there, cutting it up and clipping it. Yeah.
This Topher guy is a piece of shit.
Wouldn't surprise me.
So I remember like last year when I put that video up, some random chick somewhere put this like compilation of all my scams and all these terrible things that I've apparently done. And people were sending it to me on Instagram and I'm like, shit, mate, she's getting the clicks. Of course she's going to do it. Like, you can't blame. What do you say? Don't hate the player, hate the game. I'm like, she jumped on a viral video of mine and made clickbait.
Yeah, that's right.
Good on her.
That's right. All right, we need to wind up. I've got an appointment I need to get to, but this has been fun as always. I felt like this worked actually with both of us being able to like put up our stories and photos and websites and all that. I think that worked quite well.
What you're saying is you don't want to come down to Melbourne anymore?
Look, to not have to actually exist in the same room as your smugness, that aura has just been growing over time. And yeah, I mean, it's getting more and more difficult for me to fit in the studio alongside your ego. It's becoming a problem.
To be fair, I understand that. I understand that it must feel terrible to be such a pleb around someone like me. I can imagine the weight of your inferiority is quite overwhelming at times.
Are you forgetting the sagacious gap between us?
Chasm. It was a sagacious chasm.
Yes, sorry, the sagacious chasm. That's right.
But I am a Jezebel, so.
Well, yes, we've established
far
that.
More colourful over this side.
Anyone who's watching this and this is your first exposure to the Oddcast will be like, what the hell is going on? There's some history there. I'm not going to go into it. But yes, there is apparently a schism between us.
If you know, you know. Yes. To be honest, though, someone said to me, like, oh, how long do you reckon Topher and you keep the podcast up? I'm like, well, I don't think we're running out of news anytime soon.
No, we're not running out of news. And we said before we started, for as long as we're having fun, that's our litmus test. If we're having fun, we'll keep doing it. If we stop having fun, we'll stop doing it. And I'm still having fun. So
I am also having fun, but I also have a gun to my head to force me to say that. So no.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Just kidding. But so a couple of things. Live show. So I spoke to a lot of Oddies over the week when they came into the exhibition, and the consensus is it needs to be a weekend. So Wednesday night will not work. So either a Friday or a Saturday. We were toying with the idea of like a Saturday afternoon. I don't know. What do you think?
Like a Saturday matinee?
Yeah. And then that way people can drive home if they need to. They're not driving home at like midnight.
Yeah. I'm not against it. I mean, it just, for me, it was a case of on the Wednesday night, we would go live at the normal time. And so we would stream live from the first birthday party for anyone that can't make it. I'm not against it. Let us know in the comments, everybody. What do you reckon? Does it need to be a weekend?
Make it easier for people to get to. So that was the general consensus from the Oddies who came into the exhibition. I like the idea of some stand-up comedy. I will not be doing that. I can adjudicate. I can hold up like Red Simon's. That is not my forte. I'm more than happy to say that is not my forte. I'm just humorous as it is. My existence is humorous. My life is humorous.
You are hysterical. And yes, you are a hysterical woman. I think we've established that.
By the 1800s definition? Yes, probably.
No
buy us a coffee if you haven't yet. Support the coffee. We will be updating that soon. I know I keep saying that, but now I have time, so that will be changing.
Do you have a photo, or do you have any of the merch that has arrived handy? Does she have it handy? Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, sneak peek for all of our beloved Oddies. There is a bunch of new stuff coming. The Topher brand is about to change in a big way in the next month, and it's going to coincide with the release of a bunch of new merch. I don't love the curve on the. I don't love the curve on the text. I think we've got to rethink that.
We can change that. I like the color.
Yeah, the color's lovely. Color's really nice. So good things are coming. Thanks for watching. We're 3 hours in, and we're going to call it a night. Well, a night for you guys, an afternoon for us. Carlz, always a pleasure.
Does that mean you'll be in the comments tonight?
Oh, how do I get out of this? Let me just think. Hang on. I've got DVDs to rewind. I'm going to be really busy. Just no. I should be. We'll see. The problem is, I can be there under my Topher Field name. Yeah. So when you comment, it'll come from the channel, and when I comment, it'll come from me. Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah. Everyone roast him.
They do anyway.
The Oddie chat is great. I think we get like the most we've had in the chat is like 300 people, which is, when you think about it, 300 people live watching and chatting at the same time. That's a lot of people.
It gets pretty crazy. All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed the crazy show tonight. You will already know whether or not I made it into the comments, because you will have seen it by now. And we will see you all for the next live show on a Monday.
Mondays at 7:30, Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. Reason being, Wednesdays goes longer, and we don't want you guys to miss out on very valuable sleep. So that's our schedule, and we're sticking with it.
All righty. Bye.